recorded for rebroadcast on cable channels, also on the internet. This meeting is accessible by remote participation. Instructions are on the bottom of the agenda. The Merrimack River Boat Tour is fully booked. How long did it take? 1 day for that to book?
I think a day and a half.
Yeah.
So we had given advance invite to those who had written letters of support.
Yeah.
And that took probably at least 30 out of the 40 spots.
Oh,
So there were
really?
really not a lot available for the public.
There were a few cancellations, and I believe 90% of the people on the list are now attending.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So there's like maybe
Okay.
1 or 2 people who have it. So it's compared to now tomorrow.
Okay, so there's, you still have an active playlist.
Yeah, so you saw it from 10 after 6:11, there was an email from Elisa. So you probably already saw this then. This is probably the most recent list you have.
Possibly. Yeah, Matt, whatever Max sent out.
Okay.
That
Okay.
was the most recent list.
So, for folks that aren't familiar, this is part of the, Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Action Grant, River Road Resiliency Planning. We're taking a tour of the river to look at the potential issues and, so who is this being hosted by, the consultant, or is this?
Being hosted by the, MVP. Or for the CCRC.
Yeah, okay, right. Also, another event, the Pentucket Regional Middle and High School Stadium Celebration, Friday, October 27th at the stadium. Football game at 6:30, recognitions at halftime, Friday night lights in West Newbury, Mass. And then we also have, Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, the future of housing in our community is going to be held, it's a remote session on October 12th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And there's a QR code. This is on the town website if you're interested in attending. Fall special town meeting takes place Monday, October 23rd at 7 p.m. in the annex. Still looking for volunteers, FY24 positions, most notably the Cable Advisory Committee. We need one more person on that committee. And a reminder to subscribe for email town agendas, news and announcements at www.newbury.org/subscribe. Also under announcements, I just wanted to let people know that Leanne Delp, who's been our EMA director for the past 25 years, 23 years, Mike, do you know? 20-ish, yeah.
Sure.
She's worked in town for a long time and she's decided to resign. So we'll be talking more about that later in the meeting. Regular business, item A, request for appointment of Liam Brenham as police officer.
Do you want to take up my friend? I'm not trying to take over the meeting, but my friend Bryce and his dad. Oh, they can go first if they need to rush out.
And what are they for?
Let's see.
Bryce and his dad. Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Bryce's dad, that's not on the
I don't know
agenda.
if Bryce is friend.
Um,
That doesn't matter. Okay.
Go ahead. All right, so one other thing is our assistant town clerk who does the minutes requested that we introduce people so to make it easier for the minutes. So this is Chief Mike Dwyer for item A.
Good evening. Yes, they're just requesting, we have a vacancy right now for full-time police officers. Liam has worked as a part-time dispatcher for us for a while. He came out top during our process as we have 2 finalists. And we selected him, so looking for the board's appointment for Liam. Local kid, grew up in Groveland, graduated from Pentucket, went after his bachelor's degree in Salem State University.
His bachelor's degree was in.
So does this mean we're fully staffed?
That'll get us to 10. He's gonna need to attend the academy, so he'll be training with us until hopefully November academy start, and they'll get him back to us in about May, which is sort of perfect timing for when people start these vacation.
Yeah. Great. Any other questions?
Yeah, no.
You do? All right. Okay.
This is new to me.
Yeah.
And what is the process? I mean, you don't just rubber stamp it, you obviously interview them, does he have a physical, I mean, background checks, all that kind of stuff? How does the whole process work?
Absolutely. So we go through a vigorous application process. We conduct a background check before we bring anybody in for interviews. They sit before an interview panel, usually made up of a sergeant and some line officers. Standard questions are given. And then you have the next round, which is the chief's interview, where they have a one-on-one interview with me, and then make the final decision. Before we get to the appointment level, they go through a physical fitness exam through an independent doctor. That includes blood, drug screenings, the whole works. And they also visit a psychologist for an evaluation as well. All that information is given to them.
Any background check or?
Yep, extensive background.
A few more questions. How many full-time offices do we have? You just alluded to, I think, 10 now?
This will bring us to 10.
Is that how many we need? Or is it-
That's where we're at currently. What we need, that's probably good for another discussion. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot harder for us right now. We don't have the same luxury that we had 2 or 3 years ago with being able to hire somebody sort of off the street, train them at a part-time level. We call them a reserve officer, so they have police powers. They work part-time per diem, but now with the criminal justice reform, we're limited as to basically hiring people from off the street, sending them to a full-time academy if they're not already academy trained, and then having a good year or two to really find out what they're made of. We lucked out the last full-time appointment with Hayden Sanborn. He already had the full-time academy, so we were able to just do field training with him, get him going really quickly. So where we are and where we need to be is still trying to work that out, but 10 is where we should be right now with our staffing, with what our budget's designed for.
Well, for much of the last 4.5 years, since I've been on the board, actually, probably for almost the entirety of the time, we have not had 10 full-time officers. And
Right.
there's always been a deficit of some kind or another and some number, So getting to 10 will be a good thing. Especially, of course, the next 6 months will be, or next 8 months, will be getting him up to speed, training him through the academy, right? So,
Most likely he's gonna go to the NECO Academy, so we close by.
great.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
That's good. Feel free.
When you hire one of these people, are they working in other towns, like as a dispatch elsewhere? Or once you hire them, does it become dedicated to West Newbury?
So full-time police officers, yes, they're dedicated to West Newbury. If they're part-time officers, we do have 5 part-time officers there, they work all the time. But that's how it's always been since I can recall. That's my tradition as well. I don't want
I
anybody
guess
to
we hate to have somebody here and they go work another job and be burned out when they get the next shift.
Yeah, we'll get hurt in another, it's not like we have a staff of 50 officers where we can survive with 10.
Right. Okay, so the part-time officers we have already been through the academy, in order, correct?
They've been through the part-time academy, or what's referred to as the Bridge Academy.
Oh, that's right, okay.
Yeah, which sort of bridges the gap between part-time and full-time training hours.
Okay, but, Chris, I think, I don't know if you noted when Mike introduced this, that Liam has been a doctor here, so, besides having grown up locally, he has history working, at least in dispatch here.
I just meant the process in general, if it wasn't this gentleman, wherever else, just to make sure they go through all the things that we just listed. We're just approving it, and so we're depending that it's already been taken care of.
Yeah,
Making sure.
and, you're concerned about people going through training and then going somewhere else, I mean, that has been a recurring theme over the course of the last 4.5 years. I think there've been 2 or 3 people who.
Can be, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the risk you take and,
What's the only way to get into the police academy? Yeah, by recommendation of the state, correct?
So yes, the police academy is gonna come from, you have to be committed to an agency now. Before you could self-sponsor your way through the academy, or you could, really work part-time your way through the academy. But now the requirements are that you have to be committed to a department.
great. Any other questions? Yeah, I move that we, appoint Liam Grenham as full-time police officer.
And is this for the rest of this year or? Is it just?
Yeah, they're reappointed each year.
That's the.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
He
you.
was unable to make it here tonight. He had a previous commitment, but we'll be sure to bring him back so you can meet.
Very good. Item B, notification of appointment of Michael Dwyer as interim EMA director. So.
Well, you had, said it during the announcements, but the intent of, putting this on the agenda was really just to increase the public profile of the transition from the outgoing, director Leanne Dell, to, Chief Dwyer, who has, thankfully.
Graciously.
So we got notice, in early September, and so we started having discussions with, Chief Dwyer a short time after that. Each of Wendy and I had talked to him individually as well as, I don't know if we all talked together, it might have been just, but anyhow, we're delighted that, Chief Dwyer is taking the reins, and, we have an exercise coming up at the, Emergency Operations Center on the 18th of this month, so it's actually, I think, works out well at the beginning of that cycle to have that transition take place, prior to that cycle rather than in the middle of it, so. We will be working with the chief over the next 2 weeks or so to just refine the staffing structure, which historically has been at least on paper a director and assistant director. And Chief Dwyer brought forward a recommendation to consider creating 2 assistant director positions, which seems like makes a lot of sense. But we'll work to get the job description refined to properly reflect that. And if there are any adjustments to the FY 24 salary wage table, that would be the action I had brought to the board at your next meeting.
Thank you.
Questions? Discussion?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think it's great.
All right, item C, Bryce's dad. Jason Goldweber, asking to be appointed to the Mill Pond Committee. Any questions?
No, I like your background, the fact that you've got a degree in environmental studies.
And he lives right on Mill Pond.
Oh, do you really? Oh, that's great, okay. Good. Yeah, so you obviously have your eye on it all the time.
We are back there quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm seeing town firefighter for 12 years. That's the connection. Okay.
It's a very important part of it.
I didn't catch that the first time. No, that's
Did
great.
you grow up in Mill Pond?
No, I actually grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and
Oh, okay,
my wife grew up in town.
okay,
So we ended up moving back here and
yeah,
we got lucky and got one of the houses that abut the pond, and
yeah,
we thoroughly enjoy it back there. So we're back there all the time anyway. Might as well start going to the meetings and participate a little more.
great, good. Well, thanks for reaching out for it.
Yeah, just, Jason wasn't at last week's meeting of the Mill Pond Committee as well, so I don't know if that was your first. or
He's
if you
still
had-
here. So-
That's my son.
Great, great.
Make a motion to appoint Jason Goldweber to the Mill Pond Committee.
Second,
All in favor?
Do we know what the term is?
2024, so June 30th, 2024, and then it'd be up for 3 years after that.
okay, so just finishing out a term.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And will that be fully appointed? in the Pond Committee?
Yeah, that will be full Mill Pond and then a couple associate positions
Okay.
too.
Very good. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Brian.
Hey,
Sorry.
Bryce, do you have anything you want to say?
No.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
See you later.
All right. Item D, select board review of committee's charge and function. So tonight we're reviewing the cable advisory committee questionnaire.
Kevin on BS.
Yeah, hey Kevin, I think I just got a message from Kelly that she can't make it.
Hi.
Yeah, I think this is Kelly.
I'm more here for Kelly.
You're what?
I'm more here for Kelly
Okay,
to give her some moral support.
okay, well, she's not here, so it's all you.
Okay. Well, then I'll field whatever questions anyone has.
Okay, very good. So one thing I had right off the bat, the location, I mean, the length of terms, the questionnaire says 1 year, but in the chart it says 3. Do you know what the answer to that is, Ken?
If in the chart it says 3, then it's 3.
Well, no,
No, in
it's
the-
a draft chart, there is no chart,
Yeah,
everything in here is draft.
Gotcha.
yeah.
I guess that would be up to the select board, sure.
So there's nothing in writing with the.
Not that I've seen.
Okay. All right, so that's one thing we just figured out. We highlighted that.
I mean, we have plenty of boards that they're all 1-year appointments, and then there are also staggered terms, so it really depends on what you feel fits this board best.
Okay. So it looks like the chair is responsible for posting the meeting, taking the minutes, updating the website. So they listed Adam as the town staff liaison, is that?
I had flagged that just because he's not a staff person
Yeah.
and, you know, while it's terrific how engaged he is and he goes to those meetings, that's not, you know, I'd be hesitant to say that's a specific responsibility he has. It's great that he does it, but,
Okay,
I think this box was really more intended for staff, like a staff liaison.
yeah, so for example, if somebody was helping update the website or
Mhm.
stuff like that, okay. So they have a proposed charge that's attached, but let's just go through the rest of the questionnaire first. Accomplishments since the last evaluation, so they just purchased and implemented the upgraded server, and everything's all set in the second hearing room, is that right?
Yeah, I tested out with the cultural council, it's working perfectly.
Awesome.
Great.
So did you make directions on how to use it?
Yep, we have a little, you cannot miss step-by-step instruction manual in color, pictures and everything.
When was that put up there?
That's great, yeah.
That was just put up there recently, or?
Yeah, no, I think I did, was it Monday?
I thought Friday, I marked up with like 1 or 2 minor edits on just on Friday, so I don't know if it's,
Yeah, so I had
it was very, very good.
I have a temporary one upstairs, just in case anyone used it, but the edits, we incorporated Mangus site, Christine in color.
Nice. All right, so that money came from our pay.
It did.
From the
Yeah,
money that we get from the cable companies. Priorities for the next year, formalize the process for citizens can borrow and utilize our camera build kit. Kevin, do you want to describe what that is for people that may not know?
Sure. Well, you know, a conventional public access is meant for part of the mission is meant for citizens to create their own programming, or at least also facilitate in local programming. So, you know, that means what we call a field kit, which would be just a camera, tripod, a wireless microphone to do an interview. And, you know, our goal obviously is to set up some training and set up procedures where people could utilize that for creating programming, whether, you know, right now we have seminars that are being produced on Zoom for the invasive plants. Well, wouldn't it be nice if we kind of, instead of just doing a Zoom thing, we were able to, you know, record that in a more, you know, lively manner or something like that. Same thing with, you know, garden club or different events. So that's one of the intents that we have.
Okay. The other priority for next year is working towards making the PEG funding sustainable.
Actually, I just wanted to ask a question about that. So does that, the camera kit currently exist?
Well, we do have some old equipment that, you know, you see Adam has used at the town meeting. And the idea would be to potentially get another 1 or 2 that would be a little, not that there's anything, well, not that there's anything hard with the old one, but it's a little, you know, it's a few years old. And it is a little bit bigger and a little bit more, we might want to get something that's a little bit more user friendly than somebody like Adam or myself using it,
They're not to open up a can of worms, but there's probably nothing that would be suitable for the MVP grant boat trip.
Tomorrow.
Well, I thought that was this week.
Had to ask a question.
No, but no, Rick, I mean, I treated that as a serious comment. I mean, like, yeah,
Well, it is, although I realize from a time frame standpoint, it's not, or it's.
Yeah. But if I envision this boat trip with somebody doing an explanation of what's going on, we would hook them up with the microphone and record them and if someone knew what they were doing, take a couple of exterior different shots of the river and this and that and put it together. Absolutely. That's precisely the kind of stuff we'd like to see done.
Are you busy tomorrow?
Well, you guys told me it was, it's quote unquote sold out, so.
Well.
So I put in a day for work for tomorrow. I could,
Oh, you and Rick can talk offline.
Well, hey, listen, you don't know how it pains me to say no to going on a boat ride on the last 80-degree day of the year.
Yeah, what time?
Yeah.
But no, that's exactly the kind of stuff we'd like to see that equipment used for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the comment about making PEG funding sustainable, what was behind that? Do you
Well,
recall?
I mean, that's really my, long dogged thing, because we've had these funds for a long time and, I was fully aware of them. I know a lot of people weren't, but it takes, like ideally we'd have a position. Ideally we'd have a studio. And just like many cities and towns in Massachusetts, they have a sustainable program that is funded, year after year after year. And unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, our size, also because of the contract and the low percentage of fees, I personally am concerned that, we run out of the money because it's only $200,000 and it's only growing. And Angus, you can tell me better, at maybe a rate of 30 or 40,000 a year. So, we just always have to be cognizant that, we could get very ambitious and dive into things and then, realize we might not have long-term sustainability. So that's always been my concern about this.
Kevin, based on history though, we've never even come close to using the annual receipts, right?
Based on history, we've done nothing.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking, we really have, and again, I had high hopes of potentially, a studio is kind of critical, and to get people to come and to be able to, have people produce like a talk show or an issue thing and my heart was broken with the Sailors and Soldiers Home. I think we could have, had a real good, program. And if we could find a decent space and some, buy some inexpensive equipment and things like that, absolutely. But no, you're right, Rick. We've done, very little. And, I myself have been conscious about doing very little because, I'm concerned that if we started doing something, half whatever, we're gonna, waste all our money and maybe not have anything good of it. I guess my real basic point is that if we probably have one shot to go out of the gate and just to announce to people, hey, we've got this, we've got that, and all this kind of stuff. And that might only last for, in terms of money, that might only last for a few years. And hopefully we've built enough momentum and enough community buy-in that we can figure out a solution down the road. So, you know, I don't know if that's my concern about sustainability.
Okay. Under 2-year priorities, helping the select board prepare for contract negotiations. I think this kind of gets to one of the core questions, as to what role the CAC really will have. I mean, the select board is the negotiating and the signatory on these contracts. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about this. It can become unwieldy to have the select board responsible and have a committee do the work and then come back to the select board, and then, you know, having them function as an intermediary may not be that efficient. So if we do indeed want the assistance of the CAC, then I think we need to, you know, define what that looks like and how that would be most helpful.
Yeah, okay, so the way it's phrased here, I don't read that as being an intermediary. It says prepare for contract
Yeah,
negotiations, so.
I guess I'm also looking at their proposed charge. There's a lot of language in it, like the role, yeah. So, I mean, we can keep going, but I just wanna flag that.
Yeah,
That's,
I think, you know, advisory, I mean, obviously you guys are the signatory, and Wendy, I don't know if you want to, you know, maybe at another time discuss some of the issues we brought up about the last negotiation and you know, maybe outside counsel or not and all that, but that might be for another day.
yeah. Then the question, how can the select board town manager support the work? Here it says, you know, help us negotiate robust contracts. So that again gets to this issue of, you know, what the role of the CAC is. So the cable advisory committee, the next page is the date of creation. The annual town meeting article cited, that was simply to establish the funding mechanism, you know, the PEG grant, and that's the MGL reference also, is just to allow that funding to be established. And then these licenses are mentioned, and then the next several pages is a draft charge that's been prepared by the CAC for our review. We're probably not gonna, you know, nail this all down tonight, but this is along the lines of what they are thinking that their function is. I think the first paragraph, the general law, chapter 166A, that's cited here, that doesn't really say that the cable advisory committee is appointed and can be, you know, the representative of the issuing authority. It's more about like the wiring and all of that.
Yeah, I know. I think Kelly had put that in, you know, more as kind of background almost, you know.
Yeah. The objective, fairness, equal access, and non-discrimination, those are all good things. One thing I found interesting at the last meeting, the discussion about that we're moving away from traditional local cable television, you know, to streaming and that kind of thing. So the role of this committee probably is going to change, you know, in the near term.
As well as funding mechanism.
Right.
You know, hence the concern, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, year under membership is where it says 3 years. And then the next page is just a description. There's 10 items of what the committee feels their charge is. So these are very detailed.
Yeah, and if I could jump in just on the changing nature of the industry, and I guess it's really, you know, going to be a board of selectmen, you know, town meeting kind of thing. You know, as those that were involved in the last renegotiation know that the cable companies, or Verizon, if you want to call them a cable company, you know, they recognize that things are changing radically. And, you know, people are cutting the cords, and before you know it, oh, my dog doesn't like what he sees on the TV. And the PEG money is going to slowly go away, make a long story short. And there are some measures that a lot of the community, and actually, again, you know, a lot of the cable access stations or operations, they prefer to call themselves community media centers. You know, that's how they view themselves. I mean, they stream selectmen meetings or city council meetings. They do a whole variety of different things that are not, within the context of cable. A lot of it is obviously the internet and what have you. And there are some initiatives that would replace the funding mechanism of these fees. Remember, these aren't necessarily coming from the cable company. These are coming from us, the cable subscriber, about $3 a month that we're all giving in. And the question, there are some, opportunities or attempts to like replace the funding mechanism of cable subscribers with potentially, fees on streaming and things like that. But I guess my point is, or my question is, and this is ultimately the selectmen, is that, how much community communication, community media, community, like doing things like Rick said about the vulnerability committee and things like that. How much do you want to move in that direction? Because in 5 years, 10 years, it's going to be something that won't be funded through cable peg fees. It'll be something different. And so that's really the big question that we all have to ask is, and hopefully, again, back to sustainability, I want the best bang, if we do something in a big way and hey, we rebrand the West Newbury community media on channel 42 and just constantly try to do things, hopefully there'll be a value on that, and hopefully you guys will see that value. So I'll stop my rambling about the dangers of the future. That's all.
Okay. All right, one thing I know, number 8, it says the PEG Access Advisory Committee. I'm assuming that's the CAC. You probably don't have it in front of you, Kevin.
No, I don't, but yeah.
Okay.
But I know with the PEG advisory, it says.
Yeah, PEG Access Advisory Committee. I mean, that's the function of the CAC, so I assume that's what it means.
Yeah, I'm sure she means the CAC.
Okay. Do you have any initial thoughts on to answer Kevin's question, what you'd like to see in terms of public communication, or?
I know very little about it. Say, number one, you gotta get a third member. I don't know how you,
Yeah.
a little community outreach, maybe this will help.
Yeah.
The second thought I had is he was talking about needing a studio. By chance, is there one at the high school that could be shared and used?
There had been some communications with the high school via, there's a gentleman, Chris LaCory, who works for Groveland and Merrimack. That's kind of Adam's counterpart. And there had been discussions about, contributing money and setting up more of a student studio, or more of actually just wiring it for the basketball games and wiring it for the concerts and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, if there are a lot of relationships out there. I mean, there's a lot of models, Chris, to make a long story short. And one model is to have your community access in a high school or a middle school and, kind of share it with the schools. But, the only models I'm aware of, like Quincy and Quincy, Massachusetts, and I'm trying to think of some others. I mean, they're not regional. And, there might be discussion about, West Newbury. There's all, 200,000, sounds like a lot of money until you start trying to spend it, as you guys know. There might be some, reservations about us going it alone or something like that because it's a regional agreement.
Okay.
I'm open to different. I'm clearly, the E in PEG is education. It's public education and government. So it's certainly appropriate.
Might be worth pursuing. I would think that the high school has to have some kind of facility along its way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they have a video program. And as a matter of fact, oh, I want to say 15 years ago, but maybe it was 10 years ago. The Board of Selectmen, using our PEG fees, made a contribution of $5,000 along with Merrimack and Groveland, so it was 15,000 that initially funded a half position for a video instructor. And the intent, and it did happen, is that the video instructor, and it would launch the video program at Pentucket, and it stuck. So, you know, back to sustainability, somehow folding this into the school system or folding it into some existing institutions that are already in West Newbury is you know, something that can be considered. Again, obviously I'm talking about the library there. But these are just my opinions. These are not the official opinions of the Cable Advisory Committee, and certainly not the chair. I'm just a member.
I just think it'd be more cost effective if there's a facility available to compensate them for the time and the use that you use, or even swap out letting them use equipment that you would acquire or something like that, rather than trying to pursue a new studio of your own.
Yeah.
Effective.
And you know, again, working out the logistics, you know, because the community access would more be a nighttime thing. You know, the citizens and all that kind of stuff, where obviously the school stuff tends to be a daytime thing, which complements things, but that's assuming, you know, we could get access to it. But there's a lot of options.
I had a couple of questions on the draft charge. The item 5 stood out at me. That's the one, Kevin, I don't know if you have it handy, but to make recommendations on media and communication initiatives that do not involve Comcast or Verizon, including social media outlets and other methods of communicating with West Newbury residents. So, do you know what's kind of envisioned there?
Well, yeah, I mean, that really goes into what I was just saying about, you know, this kind of being community media, this kind of involving the internet, involving streaming, you know, a lot, you know, this whole concept of public PEG was, you know, a 1970s, 1980s concept. And that paragraph is just acknowledging the fact that we're in a whole different world. And, you know, we'd like to advise on, you know, the changing nature of it. And again, like things like the cable access community in Massachusetts is, you know, trying to lobby for a fee, a user fee or something like that, that the streamers would use. So, you know, we might come to the Board of Selectmen on something like that, or we might come to the Board of Selectmen, yeah, on things that aren't like directly related to the cable pipe or the fiber that goes into our homes and our buildings. Does that answer your question, Angus?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of, where later on tonight's agenda, we've got a discussion on different policy issues to do with social media and web postings and what does and doesn't. And I didn't know.
I don't think we had in mind advising you guys on doing that necessarily. But, you know, like, so for instance, I mean, you know, a couple of years down the road, we might have a web streaming channel, you know, that is part of the West Newbury website, for instance. And you know, instead of encouraging people or dual encourage people to, you know, watch this stuff live, but at the same time, you know, educate them on how to like pull up any meeting and stream it, which would happen outside of the architecture of you know, cable. So that was our intent.
Great. And then the next one after that was the only other question I had, that on item 6. It seems like that might have been maybe borrowed from a different community, but it didn't really. So it says to support the PEG service staff, which obviously there isn't any here. It says in creating, developing, and promoting various and specialized courses. So you know, that sounds like, more of like a curriculum or more of like something that would come out of a community that has a studio. I lived in Quincy almost 10 years and, actually was part of their, the Quincy CAP, or,
The Crane Library?
yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
They're-
Angus and I know
a lot of great programming, yeah.
cable students.
But, you know, they had like a whole
Yeah,
presence and staffing and budget that is obviously a whole different, order of magnitude than we have here.
Right.
So,
okay.
Wendy? Angus, you done?
I'm done, yeah.
So, did you establish who the liaison is going to be as a town employee? And the reason I ask is a lot of this seems to be directed right to the select board. I wonder what function the town manager might serve in all of this. So a lot of this stuff, I think, would perhaps bubble up through the town manager to the select board. Just an impression I'm getting from the conversation. It seems almost like this is all stuff established and being carried forward irrespective of the, our town manager, function that's, you know, just coming forward.
I've been to most of the CAC meetings in the 5 years I've been here.
No, I know.
Which is not really how it needs to be, just from a time
Right,
management standpoint.
but
it's
again,
difficult.
who's it gonna go in through and how is it gonna bubble up to the select board as opposed to when I'm hearing is a whole bunch of stuff direct to you guys? That's what I'm commenting.
Yeah, I think that's the defined role is to
Yeah.
advise the select board.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it always I mean, at the end of the day, it's Angus, because even when it's Adam, we have to clear stuff with Angus. And you know, in terms of like, you know, it's not really day-to-day stuff either. It's week to week or month to month. And, you know, Angus definitely has been very much involved. And I think there is a consensus that we need to, you know, pull him away from it in terms of priority. I mean, I know this is not the appropriate answer, but, you know, it seems to me that we do have a selectman on our committee. I know that's not a staff professional, et cetera, but, you know, it's certainly a good facilitator that the committee could have and get things communicated. Or, you know, again, I mean, if you guys want to assign one of the professionals, then, you know, I mean, I'd love Angus, but I'd hate to see him add this onto his plate.
Okay. All right, thank you, Kevin.
One final thing, Wendy, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago with regard to contracts and kind of the language
Yeah,
and you made clear correctly that obviously the board's the signatory and you're the party to the contract, but you know, it seems like, as we work to refine this, if the Cable Advisory Committee has suggestions of what they see elsewhere, you know, that's something that I think would be very helpful if they provided, for instance, comments to you prior to you starting to formally negotiate with either Verizon or Comcast to get their input. You as a board may take or leave some or all of what they take, but having that kind of perspective from a group of residents who, you know, can really drill down on that may well add something to things that either you three or either me or my staff would really drill down on
Yeah.
as much.
Yeah.
So that could be helpful.
okay, there's a meeting next week, or this week, right, Kevin?
That's sweet. Yes, Thursday, I believe.
Yeah.
So Angus, actually, I didn't answer your question about the courses and stuff. That was part of that last charge. I mean, I think a lot of that, at least the way I interpreted it, was, you know, teaching people on how to use these field kits, teaching people potentially on how to edit. You know, so there is, yes, I mean, you know, we have to come up with processes and resources, frankly. Because whether that's Adam doing the training or a volunteer like myself doing the training or farming out the training for citizens to, you know, one of the other community media centers around, whether it's Salisbury or whether it's Newburyport.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you sitting in.
Appreciate it. Talk to you guys later.
Good night, Joe.
All right, next item, review of updated draft warrant.
So I did, Jim did hand around, there were some red lines as I read them. So these all results from town council review. We've got KP's comments about early afternoon today. So if you haven't looked at that, I suggest to take a look at the red line. I didn't see anything, substantive in terms of changing the intent of any article. It's really kind of town council stuff. So I don't think there's anything that's like changing any recommendations or anything like that, but just in terms of this is the latest, kind of the latest working draft. And as you know, the warrant would need to be signed and posted by the end of this week. So if there are any questions or items for discussion tonight, would be a good night for that.
So you said there's nothing substantive?
Not that I saw substantive. I mean, it's certainly nothing that changes any of the intent from what has been understood.
Well, like the stipends thing, it just said to approve, but in here they, council defines it for the numbers and everything else, just expounds on things that were.
Yeah, I did respond on the council's markup to what's in here is number 19, that may all change, but I had put in a comment in my response I sent back to Tim, this afternoon as to whether, since it's 1,000 for full-time and 500 for part-time, does that need to be spelled out, or is this language you put in fine because it just sets a cap? There might be like, little minutia to, just before we hit print on the final warrant, but it shows you the direction we're going. In terms of the numbering, I wanted to explain why this phantom item 13, you may have seen.
No article?
Well, that's how it's written now. We'll know hopefully at the end of tonight, how it will be written, but what that came from is, the postcard that Greenbelt sent. So I had given them the number 14. And then with a couple of changes with the stormwater, with free cash, or I think there was a third one too that came off. Now if we keep it in this order with financial articles, that there aren't 14, there's 13 total before you get into the bylaw one. So I think there's really three options. One is this. I think this is very clumsy. This probably isn't what you'll choose to do. A second would be to take something like the opioid abatement and just kind of shoehorn that into the financial articles just to make the numbering, it might look a little odd, but no one probably care. The third, which I think would also be a little clumsy, would be to actually break out, one of the budget amendments as a separate article. Just to kind of fill up that.
But which one would you break out?
Probably the election one, or even
About the schools,
Yeah, I mean, it's a new assessment. It was information received after the warrant,
I think that's the better way to do it.
initially.
But Casey was not happy too.
That's true, that one did come in, that didn't come in.
Handle second elevator, just have no floor 13.
No, I don't think to be the second.
Generally not true though.
So anyhow, that's
Okay.
just a little nuanced item too.
So do you need us to do a careful review and get back to you?
No, well, certainly if you see anything in the next two days.
Okay, I
definitely.
can't read it on the fly.
Yeah, no, I think so. So Wednesday night, as you know, the finance committee meets. This language, obviously without the red lines, is what I'm building into the FinCom booklet.
Yeah.
I tend to wait till kind of the last minute to build the warrant article language into the booklet, because if it changes, I then have to remember to change it in the warrant into the booklet. So I just soon put it in the booklet once it's final. So, I think anything in the next, 48 hours from this meeting is still timely. And then it'll be, Thursday would really be the last date. We'd be printing it, making it available for your signature, and then Friday it would be posted no later than Friday.
So can you get comments by the end of the day tomorrow so that he has a clean comment?
I don't think I have comments.
Okay.
13, I'd like to see the two Pentucket items go there. I think that works well. And then my only other question, I hate to bring this one up, is the memo that I guess included in the packet.
Yeah, I wanted to explain that. So the intent was not to rediscuss that. but Angus felt like he didn't express all of his concerns about bypassing that, so I said, put it in the packet, and, some of the page on turnbacks and budgeting, I think are good discussion items as we head into budget season, but, I don't think we have time to talk about that tonight. And the level of detail that would be useful.
I just wish I'd known this at the meeting previously, because
We should know what.
Angus's and Jenny's thoughts on the free cash would have impacted my vote. And he's got the big picture, and he understands it.
Okay.
I think with that, though. But,
Yeah, I guess on principle, we had a lengthy discussion, everybody contributed, and I don't see that this information is that different than what we've seen before. I mean, it's better developed. But, I don't like going back on the vote unless there's something, unforeseen or, something radically different that we didn't know at the time. I mean, what do you feel is different in there that you couldn't,
Manager stating strongly, he thinks that the funds from free cash to offset the tax rate. I think that's significant. I mean, he's got the overall picture in his head of where we are and where we're going. I do not, and I do the best I can with what we have. I don't disagree with the concept of it. I just, as we talked about last meeting, need to have a programmatic way to determine what that number should be, and hopefully we can get there.
I think it's kind of interesting, and yeah, we've already hashed this one over, and correct me if my nomenclature is wrong, Angus, but I think it's the recap sheet, the state recap sheet that actually accounts for this. For a contribution from free cash to offset the tax rate. So, what we've done historically is not unusual. It's not unique to us, Newbury. It's in fact.
do you know that a lot of other towns do it? I mean, I haven't been able to identify any other town that does it.
I know.
I mean, I know that it is on the recap sheet, it's an option, but my feeling is that it's become a standard practice and we haven't dealt with the underlying issues of why we generate so much free cash. And if we do generate too much, we don't have like a firm number of what should be in, free cash, what should be in stabilization, which we're working on, and I feel like we just keep doing it because it's easier, than figuring out this hard stuff. So, but this is all stuff I've already said and you've already said. I mean, I would prefer to let this decision stand for this year and work on the other things that we've discussed and, revisit it next year. Okay, anything else on this, Angus, that you want to touch on?
On that memo or on the warrant?
On the warrant in general?
Yeah, I did want to draw your attention to the two items, the two amounts that I highlighted. What's in is number 5. Yeah, the number all could change. And Chris, I think if we did break out Pentucket, I would suggest we put that right after 3 and just bump everything down 1 rather than put it was a little more logically there. But 50,000, I think that's a good number. Obviously, the proposal we got has a draft scope. We talked last meeting about potential changes to geographic scope of their analysis. There's some ongoing discussions. I talked to Mark Marlowe late last week. I think 50,000 is the right number to use for the article, but I explained to Mark that doesn't mean that proposal is exactly precisely what we're going to agree to, either in terms of the amount or the actual scope, and also the method of, I reached out in terms of time materials versus lump sum. So I just want to draw attention. I think that's the right number to use. And then the other one, Article 7, as you saw from the packet, we have since just actually last week when the police department did successfully get some grant funding to offset that expense. So the actual amount needed is lower than the 28 that's in the warrant. So, the question is, do you want to leave the 28 in and have a motion at a lower amount, or do you want to reduce the article amount to better reflect what's now needed?
Just reduce the article amount to avoid confusion.
I don't know, I think it's a good opportunity to demonstrate to voters, you know, that the police department has, you know, helped us realize it's cost saving.
Well,
I
I
think
think
it
put
can
the rationale with the FinCom, you know, say the total cost is this, but the funding is, comes from two sources.
yeah. Rick, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it would be it would be better to use the number that we really know it is, that is needed and, yeah, explaining it in the rationale would make more sense to me.
All right, Angus, does that work?
Yeah, I prefer that, because even though the booklet isn't the warrant, and the warrant isn't the motions, it's really only the motions that matter.
Yeah,
We do look back at these booklets years, like I look back at these booklets all the time, and so even though I know, and I'll know for at least the next couple of weeks, oh, it says 28, but it's really 10. You know, at some point in the future, that fades into the past, and then it just creates reconciliation issues. So I agree with the suggestion if we reduce it, if we know before this thing's signed and posted that it's a lower number, I would definitely recommend go with a lower number, and to take nothing away from the efforts of the police department, you know.
No, it'll be in the rationale, we'll just have to adjust the rationale.
Yeah. So I would recommend using the, I think it was 10,000 was the revised amount, yes, 10,000.
okay. And on the Article 5, I think, I don't know if you had heard this, but Mark was saying basically that the water department had gone through this exercise, Lamar had a rider on their behalf, and that, you know, they did have a objective review, and so that if they provided information, that perhaps the cost could be less. I mean, I'm saying perhaps the cost could be less, so that's what Angus was referring to.
They went through a similar process, or?
No,
Well, an objective review, so this is
Correct.
their term.
They have stuff in their history that goes directly to this, so less work may be.
Oh,
needed.
okay.
Yeah, but
So
that-
useful information.
Yeah, they may have to.
I mean, not the water department, but their contract.
yeah, I don't think there's like a report or
No.
anything, but there's some institutional knowledge that has led them to the recommendations they've made on different sites. You know, based on objective information, that's not known to us and never has been known to us, so. Mark had approached me late last week to say, hey, you know, before you sign that contract, you know, let's make sure because he's just learning that himself. And so I said, you know, be happy to have a call with Ryder, who's the person who's, I think has some institutional knowledge. And I thought, you know, if a member of the board was present for that, that's all in the spirit of honing the proposal that we received.
But it's
Because
also,
in any scenario, we're gonna want at minimum, you know, the sea level rise scenario mapping. I think we're probably gonna want some or most or all of what they propose, but you know, Mike had reached out to me, late last week, and I said, yeah, let's set up a call, and I talked to him earlier today as well, so. Just to learn what went into it. I mean, one thing that was mentioned was the, minimum land area that you need to meet the 200-foot no disturb zone, I think that puts you to 11 acres, I don't know what that. And that there's, you know, there's some culling of potential sites that Mar had done over the years to lead them to different sites, but again, we don't know any of that, we don't have any of that written, so.
Yeah, I don't think there is a written record, that's all one person.
Right, I
Process,
suspect that
yeah,
there's
but-
not, yeah.
But, you know, that's what they are offering, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it
it's
makes
certainly
sense to
not-
leave the 50, because you don't.
Yeah, it's a ceiling,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a ceiling. yeah.
By the way, if we could, Wendy, just one thing. On moving stuff out of Article 3.
Mhm.
So if you would consider this, 3 of those things are assessments. As I understand it, including ethic, North Shore Ag and Tech School. So all I would ask you to consider is move each of those things that are assessments out jointly. So one article would combine Kentucky and Ag, leaving the others that are more our own operations, not assessment. I would just do it because the explanation's the same for three of them.
Mhm.
There are assessments that, well, you have to pay them.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right. So that's all I would add.
All right, does that sound good, Andy?
Yeah, I think the idea of turning Article 3 into 2, and that gets us to 14, I think that's a really elegant way of resolving
And
that.
the last question is, we didn't have any changes like Sue had mentioned where they would, we're only gonna have one thing for the, what was it, the ADU that they were talking about, whether council was talking about splitting out that, that's not gonna happen.
Well,
So,
they haven't met yet, so I don't know.
No, and I was copied on an email from council late this afternoon, probably just an hour before tonight's meeting, and I was left with kind of scratching my head, so I was planning to talk to Sue tomorrow.
So this was a follow-up from a query from,
Sue had sent a follow-up email today to Robin Stein saying, I'm wondering if you have a definitive answer on whether the ADU bylaw as proposed with a provision for a special permit under limited conditions is eligible for a simple majority vote, or whether it will require a 2/3 vote. And Robin responded at about 4 o'clock. Sue, it continues to be my opinion that if the proposal includes a provision that allows a special permit for an ADU that is larger than contemplated by the statutory definition or otherwise different from the definition, then that one proposal should be a separate warrant article that will require a 2/3 vote.
or you could make it all.
So, and then she puts in the statutory definition of the ADU, which is, a long paragraph. Let me know if you have additional questions. So I read that and I was like, I have no idea what. So I guess, we'll get this pinned down tomorrow, but, I read that to mean there could be 2 articles on the ADU, and that would not be my preference.
Okay, so can I speak to that, Wendy? Having talked to Brian,
okay,
I don't think the planning board was contemplating this going to 2 articles. And I'm not so sure why we're hesitant to go for 2/3. I mean, I mean, this is like, 2/3 is it, just do it. I mean, it's almost like someone's got it in their mind that we can't afford to go 2/3. I'm sorry, we should go 2/3.
well, this is
What?
their article, I think we gotta leave it up to them to figure out.
Oh, sure, yeah, but I want you to be aware that it's not clear to me that the planning board, in fact, hasn't already answered this question.
Okay, well, Angus, we'll get to the bottom of it, I'm sure.
Thank you.
It's amazing how, year after year, cycle after cycle, we always know that these warrants will go to, no matter how hard we work, no matter how much we try to front load it, there's always those, 1 or 2 or 3 things that are still left there.
Yep. All right. So will you be able to get any comments to any stuff around?
On this?
Yeah.
If I have any.
Yeah. I don't think you'll be getting any, but.
Yes, yep.
Okay,
And I am meeting, actually, I asked Rob to sit in as well, meeting tomorrow at 11:30 with the moderator. That'll be our first in-person meeting. I've been keeping her apprised generally via email. But, we'll have a clean draft warrant, without all the red lines, clean draft and walk through that, any questions you may have.
okay, great.
Jim, you might join us for that as well. If you want, we'll see.
Of course, John.
I'll leave you.
I might be at someone's house.
I'll leave you on pins and needles, right? You don't know. Probably gonna do that.
Put it in my phone. Amy.
All right. Item F, request for ARPA funding to support repair of sills and masonry work at Page School. Is this in the supplementary or
This was in the regular packet,
Okay.
yeah.
okay, right.
So you'll recall that back in the spring at town meeting, there was, funding approved to basically diagnose this problem. We've been talking about this off and on for a while. And, we put some funding toward actually getting a finer grain of detail, which of these sills are either problematic or potentially problematic. And so we did, sign a contract amendment with Gina to basically, since they were already mobilized and spending a lot of time at the site and in our conversations with them, it was very clear to me and Christine Wallace and Sam Jocelyn that GNAP is very, very knowledgeable on this. So we signed a contract amendment with them on the structural study of paid schools to look specifically at these sills and to come up with the both the diagnosis, if you will, of specifically which sills are of concern, as well as the RFP to allow us to move much more quickly on procurement than we would if we had to, prepare this in-house. So what you have in front of you is the draft RFP, as well as the exhibit they had put together with the markups of specific locations that they would recommend. We engage Mason to do some remedial repair work. So the estimated cost to complete in the RFP that they prepared was stated at $45,000. We did follow up with them late last week just to say how confident are they with that number, and they did verify. They got back to us, I think it was today, saying that they think it's a good number. They had consulted with Mason, who's in that business. They did recommend that if this ends up getting funded, building in $5,000 contingency. So I would like to revise my request from $45,000 to $50,000. This is put before you as a request for ARPA funds, really because if we don't go after ARPA funds, the soonest we could get the work funded would be next April town meeting. So if that's the direction you prefer to go, that's fine. But I wanted to bring it forward sooner, partly to be responsive to the concern, Sam had raised, but this is something we've known about for a while. So if you decide you don't want to do ARPA and put it as a spring town meeting article, that's how we'll proceed. But I did want to give you the option to move more quickly if you saw that as a good use of those funds.
In GNAP's proposal, they will take care of the bidding and the administration of it.
Yeah,
That's off your plate.
which is a big help. Yeah.
Now, if it doesn't go forward, they don't have, this is a time and materials, is it hourly services?
Yeah, so they would still be there if we put it out to bid in the spring and sign a contract, say after the April town meeting, they would still be under contract to do that construction administration service under their contract. So that's all paid for.
Now, the study that they're doing on the overall of the building with the sills, was that just more preliminary and this is more detailed? Was that the?
They weren't actually looking at the sills and the,
Let's be looking at the lintels, the sills, so we have a whole, I thought we spent like 80 grand to look at the exterior.
It's 85 and it's the entire building, it's the mechanicals, it's a lot, but it's not.
I thought we had a separate contract with somebody to do the lintels and the sills.
That's what this is. Yeah, so we had separate funding for that. And rather than go engage a different designer, since they were already on site, we talked to them on site about it because we were gonna do a separate procurement for that. And, once we felt that they had the necessary qualifications, it was gonna be it made a lot more sense to just do a contract.
So what did we fund it for that component?
It was a separate town meeting warrant article approved in the spring.
But how much?
25,000, yeah.
Okay, so they've used up 20, so it's.
Yeah, 20 is under contract, yeah.
So on Sam's memo,
actually, I'm confused about it. 20's under contract.
With them, so town meeting had appropriated 25.
Yeah.
We signed a contract for 20. So there's another 5,000 in that article that's not spoken for.
but this includes all the bid.
Yes, yeah.
They could still take 45 out of ARPA and use that 5 fee contingency. Just
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I'd want to look back and see how whether that motion was specific for soft costs or whether it also was for.
Yeah, not a big deal.
Yeah, but you might be right about that.
So in Sam's memo, it alludes to safety concerns, but I mean, did he give you a sense of the urgency of this? I mean, it's kind of squishy.
I think he did that on purpose.
All right.
Yeah, I think he didn't want to write something that made it seem like,
And then,
yeah, but I think, it's something that's been hanging around. I mean, it was back in 2017 that Gary Bill had the proposal from Olson to come in and do all this work, and I think it was it was over 200,000, I think it was between 200,000 and 300,000, I forget the exact amount. And, and that's actually one thing I want to be clear about, what GNAP has scoped out is basically, making things safe, not restoring them. So that would involve chipping away some of these, sills, but not then casting them and reinstalling them. So that would be, like a visual degradation of portions of the building, because it wouldn't be like restored exactly the way it is today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, given that we don't know what the disposition of the building is, it seems like a reasonable.
Holding it.
Correct. That's well put, yeah.
I don't have any problem spending the money on it. I know Rick has mentioned in the past his displeasure with using ARPA funds for things. I mean, I think it's something we should move forward with. I don't know what Rick's perspective is on the funding source.
Yeah, I do think that's the question, is it ARPA or is it next spring town meeting? I think whether we do it or don't do it, I think obviously we need to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just, I'm hopeful that we're gonna be able to pull enough funds together to do something with the bridge, and we're hopeful that we can keep the ARPA funds in reserve for that if needed.
What would we do if we got to that point and the bridge wasn't a reality, then we gotta try to spend 600 grand in 2 months.
Truck.
Is it?
We discussed that.
What's the time frame again? I don't recall.
That's the end of calendar 2024, it has to be allocated. The end of calendar 26, it has to be expended. So but basically 15 months from now,
Under contract.
everything's gotta be allocated. Is
Okay.
it under contract? I'd have to check the treasury guidance.
I mean, other than that concern, I feel like this is a perfect use of the.
I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I just see, it's giving me a tendency to whittle down the ARPA funds and
It seems like the reality is that we're probably not gonna have the opportunity to use it. The big chunk's still missing.
well, I mean, we haven't, it's kind of off topic, but we haven't yet reached out actively to our legislators and for help. And I don't know if that'll get us anywhere. When does the decision need to be made on this?
So, not tonight, it doesn't need to be made tonight, it's gonna be made when you guys are comfortable, making a decision, but I did see something in an email from Christine, recently, either Friday or today, basically, kind of saying that since one of the stipulations of the draft RFP is that the work could take place when school is not in session, given there's, not a lot of, that puts you on weekends or like, winter break or something like that. And Sam was real clear when we met on this, I think it was about a week and a half ago, he said that, he didn't see Masons, companies doing this, like proposing to do the work over the winter because of the wind and the conditions up there. Yeah. So realistically, there's probably a very good chance that the work would not actually take place until next spring. Yeah. So I think it could take place before town meeting if we had funding, whereas if we didn't, it wouldn't start till after town meeting.
You say next spring,
Yeah.
school vacation week, or?
I mean, yeah, theoretically, someone could bid and say, well, do it over winter break. That's definitely possible. But in terms of what's likely,
I think he means like April vacation.
Oh, yeah.
Vacation.
Yeah.
How long, I didn't see in how long they expect it will take, is it like a week project or?
I think we talked about that. I think it was left, I think they thought it was like 2 or 3 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
With the materials they're talking about using, you know, the sealants, adhesives, they're typically temperature sensitive. I have no idea what the working temperature range is for what they're proposing, but you know, besides the aspects of working up, you know, in a windy condition in the winter, you know, up high in a windy condition in the winter, there's also a question in my mind, you know, are the materials compatible with freezing weather? I don't know they're not, but
Yeah, I would think the contractor would, or
Right.
they have them.
yeah.
So the only thing, we don't have to make a decision tonight, but I think we do this a lot. We discuss something and then don't make a decision that comes up on our agenda again.
Yeah.
Just if we can, I mean, I don't,
See it killing us.
yeah, I don't need any more information. I think it's a good use of ARPA funds. So if we go ahead and approve this, I assume it's gonna take the consultant some amount of time to put the bid package together.
Yeah, it would take some amount of time. I mean, it's largely done. The RFP is
Oh.
pretty much done.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, we're gonna need it. There's just a couple of highlights in there, blanks to be filled in, that sort of thing. So it's really more of a staff, bandwidth issue. I mean, it wouldn't get posted tomorrow, and
Right.
it wouldn't get posted this week, but it could be posted within, you know, 2 weeks or so. If the funding was approved, and then if the bids came back and it looked like it wasn't gonna work, no one was available to do it till next spring anyway, we could always, you know, let you know that before awarding a contract.
So it wasn't gonna be done until next spring anyway.
But that would be as opposed to waiting to town meeting to start the bidding and then contracts, and then it would be, you know, sometime in the summer. I mean, I don't know, I mean, would the summer rec program being there affect whether the work could be done?
I don't think so.
No, okay.
No, where it's all in exterior.
Mhm.
I should say, I wouldn't think so. I don't.
Yeah,
Just to move it forward, there it goes, I'll make a motion to spend $50,000 in ARPA funds. To the page 4 video masonry silver repairs.
second. Any way you can get comfortable with this, Bruce?
Probably not, no, yeah.
Any other comments, Chris?
Yeah, I made the motion so we can have the discussion, I'm not sure where it's going, I'm not trying to. I respect Rick's wishes on the
Yeah.
bridge, that's the. Wonder if we're gonna hang on to the ARPA funds too long and then have to scramble to expend them. I see both sides of it, and
How much do we have left, things in ARPA? Is it,
Let's see, in round numbers, it's like 650, but I have a better number here.
all right, well, let's, so if we look at this, we have about 600,000.
Yeah, that's about right. I can, we don't have the numbers down here, but yeah, it's right about 650 without this, which is right in that neighborhood. And that'll depend a little bit also on how much the paid school HVAC actually costs, if that is, because I think you appropriated, I want to say like 110 for that, but we think there's a good chance the actual cost would be well less than that. We'll knock that wood.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we should go ahead with this, and I don't know, I would ask, I don't know if this is something you would do, Rick, but think about what the schedule is for, like, at what point will we stop holding out the money? Like, when do you think it's, okay, we gotta, this is not gonna work with the bridge, we need to start identifying
yeah.
projects.
Well, that, I guess that comes down to another topic, which I probably should have introduced at this point. We need, you know, it seems to me we need to actively start reaching out.
I mean, I did, you know, I think I sent you that, I did reach out, I had some back and forth with the senator's office toward, I think, third or fourth week of August, and then kind of the ball. They just dropped, and then I did send a follow-up maybe 2 weeks ago, and I didn't hear anything back. We can do more than sending an email, I know that, you know, of course, we got that other good news last week, which we can't publicly announce, you know, but, that changes the math, but still leaves a big gap, big gap.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the next thing to do is identify, you know, when we need to stop holding the money.
Yeah, okay. So, well, when we get to future agenda,
All right,
what about that?
all right, all in favor? Aye.
No.
Okay.
I don't think we should do that all.
We get to just,
Apologize.
yeah, I know.
No, that's fine, yeah, we have our own thoughts. So.
But it's nice when you know about things.
I don't disagree, but
All right,
All right, thank you.
okay, item G. Employee request for carryover of unused vacation time. So just for perspective, Angus, has this been done pretty much every year? How have prior boards handled it?
The first year I remember it being taken up was 2020, where COVID was really,
Yeah.
And, of course, the prior year, 2019, was, I think Jenny's first day was probably October 19th, and Stephanie's was like November 4th. So that's really was when kind of our new finance team, kind of, they weren't even on the clock during that fall cycle. And prior to that, I don't have any knowledge, but in the last 3 years, it's been something that's been taken up every year, and sometimes, I believe every year, some amount of the extension has been approved. I think was it last year that it was extended to December 7th.
Yeah.
And then I believe there was just a single employee who got a further extension past that. Am I remembering, was that last year, or was that
Yeah,
2 years
I
ago?
think there was.
at least, the gentleman was in the academy, couldn't take it.
Oh, there was that, but also that, the
I
health
think
aide,
there was, yeah.
right, I think got an extension at the end of January 1 year. So it seems to have been taken up on a case by case basis. One thing, you know, I just leave it there.
So when this happens, are people able to take all their vacation by the extension date, or did they still end up losing their vacation?
They typically end up still.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we just keep pushing the ball.
I don't know. And another thing that's interesting, under the collective bargaining agreement for highway, those union employees are able to sell back up to 24 hours of vacation. So if they chose not to take it, they would get a payout for up to 3 days of vacation. That's not the case for other employees.
Yeah,
But for highway union employees, that is in their contract.
yeah, this is a big issue, I think, because we don't want people to be in this situation of not having enough time to take their vacation. But I feel like this makes it challenging. For example, if you carry over 100 hours until December, then you're already 6 months in the hole for next year.
Well, so my remaining as of today are 70.
Yeah, but, I mean, the
Oh,
point's the same.
if a person did that, yeah.
But so it seems like it's a bigger issue than just this specific request, and I don't know how to get to the bottom of that. But
Yeah, I mean, some of that's been, it's been kind of like, I mean, you know, there've been a lot of extraordinary circumstances, and some of that did start with COVID. I mean, that was absolutely a period of time where, you know, there were a core of us, and certainly I was part of that, and certainly, you know, Jenny was part of that, and you know, Butch and Brian and John and Mark. Domingo wasn't with us yet, but you're talking about people that didn't take a day off, didn't take a day off for a long time. So I do think there is some carry forward that could even go back to COVID. I mean, that was really an extraordinary time where the majority of the workforce was remote, and those of us that weren't were picking up a lot of school.
yeah,
You come to the month of December and more DPW guys gone. I mean, theoretically, if you're looking at the average, right?
allocation, right? So then that's the other issue, is then in order to take
Short
this,
staff.
short staff.
December's gonna be a ghost town around here.
Right, well, I mean, that's part of the issue with DPW anyways, because even fully staffed, they're real short staffed.
Right, this summer, I mean, we're since, like I said, almost since April 27th, they've been down a person, so normally over the summer is when they would take their time.
So these successive extensions, do you feel like we're catching up on whatever impact COVID had, or is it just with the same people and the same number of hours every year? I mean, that's kind of.
It's hard to, I mean, without kind of going back and doing the analysis, which, we could do, as with a lot of these things, it becomes a question of how much time do we put
Yeah.
toward it. We could get you any answer you want, it's really me and Jenny doing the work, so
Yeah.
every hour we spend on this issue is now where we're not working on the other.
Yeah, I mean, I look at some of these remaining hours and I just don't see any way that will even be taken by December 31st, but.
Certainly not all.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with extending it, I wanna fix the problem that causes this, and maybe, there's no easy solution right now, but.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think with DPW, what my sense is with DPW, the core problem is that even if they're fully staffed, they don't have enough people, and so, people are not taking vacation because they're so true to the job.
Yeah.
And
So is there actually a process? I mean, I know it can get carried over for 120 calendar days. Is there a process? We just voted and it magically happens? Is that a lot? I mean, how it works?
yeah,
Okay, does that set a precedent for any
No.
other issues?
No,
Making sure.
no, because we've done it, I think,
at
three
least 3
previous
years,
years.
yeah.
And each year we end up with
I'm just
The
thinking of
Groundhog
any other
Day.
potential issues we have facing us.
Yeah.
If there's any other impact to situations that are unforeseen at this point.
No, I think the important thing is that so basically, under the Town Manager Act, I implement or I administer personnel policy the board sets. So I've been consistent, over the years, I have no authority to waive the personnel policy. At times, different, issues have been brought to the board with request for, either relief or exception from the personnel policy. So those things are voted. So in a way, I think this it kind of illustrates that we hold the line on the policy unless there's a specific authorization from the board to do otherwise. So I don't think it does anything to, undercut the enforcement of the policy, because it just illustrates that that's done consistently. It's enforced consistently.
The expectation that these will actually be used up in that time frame, I guess. That to me would be more difficult to know if all those hours get used up in that time frame, we become very short staffed for quite a while. Is there an expectation that these people are all gonna say, hey, see you in January?
Well,
I don't think that's
No, I
happened in the
just-
past.
I've
But I don't
certainly
think
said
that
that you
anybody-
said, and I know Jenny has, I mean, it shouldn't be about individuals, but although actually that, I mean, it is kind of case by case, because it does somewhat depend on, the nature of the job, size of the department, whether there's backup or not. But yeah, I mean, I know Jenny's got, travel scheduled with her family in November, and, she had expressed that it would be a shame to lose time. We just got a family trip in November that is going to happen, whether this is carried forward or not.
and so it's likely that there will be other employees that aren't reflected on this.
I expect so, but we did send out, we sent out the notices, Kim in the, finance office, every month she sends the department heads the accrual balances. So we really are proactive on sharing people's balances.
These are carried over from last year too. This doesn't include vacations that they have for this year.
This is just this year.
This is just what's carried
Yeah,
forward.
so,
That's correct.
okay,
Yeah, that's correct.
make it simple. I'll make a motion that we endorse allowing the employees is listed to carry over until the vacation out until December 31st, 2023.
Last year we chose.
It was December 7th.
Yeah, I'll second, but then in discussion,
Thank you.
it was December 7th last year, and I'm trying to recall what the rationale was, why,
It was a
So
number of
moved it
days.
back
I think,
More, I think it was so, like, I think the last time it was December 31st, if I recall, because I've been here for 2 days now. I think it was December 31st, and then we moved it back, so we could try to move it closer to the October date. I believe that was the rationale. If I'm not
I
mistaken.
thought it was something like, I can't remember.
Things to do with payroll checks or anything like that to get them in the.
No, I thought it was I think that last year it came up. Maybe, I think what it was, I think the board met on like November 7th. And I think this was on an agenda like in October. And I think the board either ran out of time or didn't want to make a decision, didn't want to, it was one of these like busy meetings. My recollection is that you actually extended it twice. I think you extended it to
That's-
November 7th.
Yeah.
Because you had a meeting that night, and then you extended it that night for another month. I think that's how.
Okay.
You pull up the minutes, late October.
I mean, I don't think it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, but I think it was something.
Are you okay with December 31st?
It doesn't, if from an operational standpoint, Angus doesn't see an issue with that, then I'm good with it, but
I mean, vacation is still subject to the supervisor's approval, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah, people can't just
Operation issue.
disappear without.
Yeah,
Even though I made the motion, I want to go back to Wendy's original point, it's the inherent problem. People should be using their vacation, not getting it, I mean, for their own well-being and for the well-being of the town. So I hope that going forward, there can be more of that, we have less of these requests.
Mhm.
yeah, of course, the irony of this is that, so we extended out another 3 months. And,
And they've got all the,
then they have the vacation they're not using for this year, that's the.
And there's 6 months in the hole already.
Right, yeah, exactly, they're already 6 months in the hole, they already are down to the point where they only have 6 months to use a year's vacation, or actually 9 months, I
At
guess.
some point, I think we could consider other policies.
Yeah, I will say, Rebecca's been doing a fair amount of research on what other towns do, and there's it runs the whole gamut. In terms of different policies, in fact, where Jenny used to work in Cooksbury, you couldn't take vacation for your first 12 months, and then on July 1st of your second year, your entire year balance was posted for the subsequent year. I mean, it's all over the map in terms of how towns do it, so. And, I don't think there's a right or, I'm sure there's wrong ways, but I don't think there's one right way. I think there's probably any number of right ways.
Mhm.
Probably not very complex.
I get what you mean.
One interesting thing that I saw is that vacation capped out at 4 weeks, and you would never go below 4 weeks, but you would never go above either. So at least that way you never lost it, If you didn't use it, you would just stay at 4 weeks. If you use some, then you would accrue it again until you got to 4 weeks. So, but there are lots of different ways to do it,
Which would be great, except for the person who gets 5 weeks.
right? But if they can't use it, it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, G, H.
All right, so if I can just give a little preface for this one. So as you know, we have a hearing tonight that was advertised for the modest amendments that's under item I. But in the course of preparing for that, I talked with Wendy and made her aware that, back in the, 2020, Mike McCarron had actually set out some pretty surgical, not transformative, but nice housekeeping amendments, and these had kind of languished for a while. So I thought, since this is in front of you, let's bring those forward for review. And if you think that some or all of those make sense, my recommendation would be when we get to the hearing on item I, to actually continue that to the 16th and just deal with all of them on the 16th. Because if we're gonna amend the personnel policy at all, it's kind of nice to just do a bunch of things. So actually, what really, the whole actual process here was in rereading it, I realized that in section 1.1, of the personnel policy, refers to the personnel bylaw as the source of authority for the adoption of the policies. And so that really needs to be changed, because it's the Town Manager Act now that confers that authority. So that's a housekeeping change, and that's what got me thinking, well, if we're gonna change a couple of things, so I asked him to kind of take McCarron's memo and run it through and make the adjustments that Mike had suggested. So if you favor some of these, I think it would be great to just refer it to hearing, and then 2 weeks from tonight, deal with a whole slate of amendments at that time.
Did you receive any comments on item I?
We did not, and although actually the comment, they were to be directed to the select board account, so, but no, we didn't receive any comments.
Okay. I don't have a problem holding off and doing it all at once. Either of you?
No, I don't. No.
And everything in the draft markups that you have was basically direct from McCarron's memo, with one exception, and that's the one on holidays, in terms of the day after Thanksgiving. And so I just wanted to call attention to that, so you didn't think I was kind of,
Slash back.
slide something through. And the issue there is, Wendy and I maintain a running list of future agenda items, and we still have that kind of ambiguity day after Thanksgiving. It's been on there, and so in reviewing tonight's agenda last week, we said, well, the fix to that would be to add that as a holiday if you chose to, or it could be, dealt with more informally than it has been in prior years.
What does that mean?
Well, so in prior years, so.
Every year, we vote on whether.
Yeah, so basically every year the board will vote to authorize the closure of the town offices on the day after Thanksgiving. And it's treated administratively as a snow day, meaning let's say you're an employee, you're willing to come to work, your employer's telling you don't come to work. In that case, because of snowy roads, in this case, because the building's closed. Part of why the select board of old was hesitant to change the policy and recognize it as a holiday was because that would have had a ripple effect on union contract.
Well, that was my next question.
At this point, all 3 union contracts recognize the day after Thanksgiving as a holiday. That was not the case 5 years ago. That's been done, but at this point, I verified it last week, all 3 of them recognize that, but that's exactly why the board of 2018 was really hesitant about it, and they wanted to make it clear that it was not, because they didn't want to open a can of worms. Now that it's already recognized as a holiday for union contracts, you might consider just making it a holiday townwide. There's relatively few employees in the town office whose regular work schedule includes Fridays. It's basically, I could go through them, but there's a number of us, but it's a minority of employees. The library's a little different because historically that had been open on Fridays, and with a former director, she used to say, we want to be open Fridays. The current director, I think, sees it a little differently, and my feeling is it's really whatever level of service the town wants. If you want library open Fridays, that's a policy decision. If that's not important, then it should be a holiday.
The librarians deserve a long weekend as well.
So if we make it, does that affect the library?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the funny thing is you got your non-union, you got your unions, you got the library, everybody's got these little fiefdoms that when you make one change, where does it go and where does it impact? I'm not sure on a lot of this still.
Yeah.
So,
Then you got the schools, which, I mean, they're shut down at that point.
Right, actually, and one other thing that was actually a big can of worms until about a year and a half ago, that I think the board, we clarified the policy of qualified part-time. I know that, Chris, that was before you were on the board, but there used to be language in the personnel policy that basically said employees were entitled to X holidays. And if the holiday falls on a day that you're not normally scheduled to work, you're still paid for the holiday. We clarified that language to say basically holidays are recognized on the schedule that the state puts out, which we then bring to the board to kind of approve locally. But if you are not normally scheduled to work on a Friday, for example, and Veterans Day happens to fall on Friday, you don't get paid because you weren't scheduled to work anyway. That was just fixed like a year and a half ago. Prior to that, the town was actually cutting checks to people on holidays that weren't even scheduled to work. We fixed that, but that was the other reason from the old days why the board was very careful to not call the day after Thanksgiving a holiday, because it under the old policy that did actually trigger a direct expense.
I feel like this is the norm,
Yeah,
and I feel your employees should have a seat.
right, I guess, not ignoring what you said about, the library employees deserving the day off, deserving the long weekend too. I don't know if it would work this year, because we'd probably have to think hard about how we would implement it, but, could there be, staff, say union staff, they work on a holiday, they get double time or something like that. Would there be, a compensatory policy to allow to get enough, would that get enough staff to come in? Would we want to spend the extra money? Would the town want to spend the extra money? And would enough staff want to come in? Because I have no idea how many people go to the library on the day of Thanksgiving. Is it common? I mean, or is it a ghost town? I have no idea.
Being naive, I would say it could be common. You get kids out of school who might need that as a resource for whatever they're doing. I don't know.
But the library's closed on other holidays,
Right, but the day after Thanksgiving is not like most other holidays.
In what way?
Not every organization does recognize it as a holiday. The state, I don't think recognizes it as a holiday. Or am I wrong about that?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't believe it.
yeah, yeah.
Another question on this whole packet too, by the way. We don't have all the pages. It's just anything
No.
that is modified.
Correct.
And then I get really confused when I look at page 27 and page 40. The numbering is messing with me. Section 10.0 and 10.0. So I don't know. Maybe something occurred because of missing pages in between, but I don't know. I see the 10th section being done over again and then starts with 11.
So there's an appendix, if you notice.
Well, I don't because we're missing pages.
Yeah, no, but page 30, technically it's 34 or 73 if you look at the digital version.
So these are supposed to get woven into the.
No, so it says appendix B, so it changes how
There's a new number.
it's a
that
new
starts.
numbering after a certain appendix.
But what I could do, tonight, the question isn't whether to do these things or not, it's whether to refer them to hearing. So what we can do if you do refer them to hearing is I can send out just the entire thing. I didn't want to, it was already late.
No, I understand that, but yeah, I got very confused.
But yeah, I can send out the whole draft policy. We would need to do a specific hearing notice like you see here to enumerate anything that's on the table for potential amendment.
Line
And
by
then,
line,
I'm sorry?
line by line of the changes?
We would do it in I'm not sure, we
Seems
would,
like a hassle,
but we would want it
yeah.
to be clear to people what sections are proposed for revision. I think for some of these where it's just changing board of selectmen, select board, we might just say a universal
Okay,
change,
all right.
you know.
That seems-
But on the substantive ones, we wanna make sure that people, you know, have advance notice of what's being considered.
Mhm.
I think if we list out what, like, if it's changing from selectmen to select board.
Yeah, that-
From he, she to they,
Yeah, that's all.
that's gender phrasing versus
Yeah,
specific policy change.
yeah, that would be good, I think. So this would go out and obviously library staff would
Yeah.
see it. and,
Yep.
I guess I'm assigned to the board of trustees, I might also reach out to them and let them know
Yeah.
that we're doing this and see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do expect it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested,
Get some
what
comments, yeah.
the library's take on it.
Mhm.
I don't want to be, completely fair with people, just, I just don't have any idea how much attendance is there at the library on that day.
Do they currently stay open on that day?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like last year, didn't they close?
Last year it was authorized to close,
Oh, okay.
because it was just kind of like a, one time the board had voted to authorize that, yeah.
And then they closed the Saturday as well.
They were open last year on the Saturday.
So it's not a long weekend.
Well, the only two
No.
people work on Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody wanna make a motion to,
Sure, actually, sure, I'll make a motion, and then I do have
okay,
something else I'm gonna say about, so, yeah, I make a motion that we, have a public hearing to consider changes in the, personnel policy as, enumerated in the, or laid out in the, in tonight's packet.
okay. We've been discussing.
Yeah, so, I wonder if, there are a few places where the meaning of day is completely clear. And then there are a few places where I find the meaning of day to be ambiguous.
Like where? How do you pick up?
Well, ironically, for instance, the period that a public hearing has to be posted says 10 days.
Oh, you mean business versus?
Right, is it business days or calendar days? And I never know what to assume.
I always assume business days, but maybe that's not.
But there are other places where it does specifically say calendar days.
Oh, interesting.
Actually, that one I would read as calendar days, because otherwise we would have to put this 2 meetings out. Because
But
we're
how
10
would
business
somebody-
days away.
If you give somebody 10 calendar days, I mean, you assume they're not gonna be responding to requests for input on the weekends, right?
Right, but if there's a Monday board meeting, that means that no later than roughly this Wednesday, which is a week and a half ahead,
Yeah,
it's.
so what was the intent, like one select board cycle, or do you think that makes sense?
I don't know the intent, because it was put in, actually, I mean, it's part of the personnel bylaw,
Yeah.
so it was put in
curious.
1999,
Yeah.
so that was what the intent was.
Yeah,
I mean, the intent was clearly that employees not get surprised by
Yeah.
changes, that was the intent,
Right.
but. Those are the specific.
so did you find that in a number of places?
Yeah, I did, and I stopped making notes, but there were some that was completely clear what it was,
Yeah.
and then, but I have also in 2.2 and 2.4. So 2.2 is, department manager fills the posted vacancy, this notice will have been done. It will be no sooner than 10 days after the deadline for receipt of applications will be no sooner than 10 days after posting.
So how does that work on job postings, I guess, is it 10 calendar
Uh,
or 10 business?
10 calendar, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it should be one or the other. It could be,
Actually, as I'm reading that, I don't recall that I've ever set a deadline for an application, because I just like posting things open and fulfilled.
Mhm.
And that goes, Joel, that just adds another ambiguity to
Yeah.
so, yeah, and then in emergency situations, temporary employees may be hired for a period not to exceed 30 days, okay? Maybe you can apply business days there because they're being hired, the word hired isn't, I just think it ought to be clear, that there ought to be no ambiguity and
So maybe that could be in.
And I don't care which it is, but
Could be a day in definitions, or would you rather have it be clear in every single? define day equals business.
And I was thinking about that, you know, there are places in here where specifically it says calendar days.
So, yeah, what does that mean for the other ones?
So maybe
Right.
eliminate the word calendar day and assume that everything's calendar day unless it's a business day or something. On like standardize it.
Yeah, I'd be curious if there are
Probably needs a
business
case
days.
by case review, you know,
Yeah.
I'd like to get it. To mean, to make sure we know what we're intending it to say.
Yeah. I mean, is there any circumstance it would have to be business day other than like agenda postings is the only thing that is a business day, right? Is there any other scenario that it would have to be a business day? Joint personnel issues?
Not like a big one.
Okay, all right, so that's one item to.
Okay.
What else do you
And
have?
then, regarding vacation days, and I know we've had this discussion back when we were trying to iron out inconsistencies in the vacation policy, you know, such as you were explaining earlier about one of those holidays. And in any event, there's been previous discussion here, but we define a full-time employee as 40 hours. We define a regular employee with no definition of hours. And then there's discussion of vacation days. And I'm not sure how many hours are in a vacation day. I thought, we've been through this and I don't recall where we were, how we got somewhere where I think we were satisfied, but I don't remember exactly where it was. And then there's a question of, okay, so maybe what you need to read into this is a vacation day is a day, it's a full day, so you can't take a partial day, so it's irrelevant whether it's 7 hours, 7.5 hours, 8 hours, you know, 6.3 hours, whatever it is, whatever your average work day is, or your typical work day is. But then that's a problem for somebody who works 4.5 days, you know.
Well,
I'm not trying to create, I mean, I feel like I'm creating problems, you know, but
It's been a thorny
Yeah.
issue for a long time,
Right.
partly because we have so many employees with non-standardized schedules.
Right.
And so people, there might be people who work a certain number of 8-hour days,
Yeah.
or other days of 4 hours. So defining a day in a consistent way is not something that's been practical. And then, even with, union employees, there's some where it's an 8-hour day, some a 7.5-hour day. So using day in a way that's common has not been possible. I think, when I did these, it was really just to take McCarron's things and try to get some low hanging fruit.
yeah,
The issue.
okay, so
of
maybe,
days
I'm
and
sorry,
hours-
I don't want us to agonize on this.
There's a lot of background on it. I'll tell you that one of the reasons why it took a long time to get to where the accrual records, the finance department was tracking, reconciled with each department's records, was because of differences of opinion as to days and hours. Jenny's not here, but my guess is she would say we should define accruals in terms of hours, because it has over the years created a lot of questions. But a lot of those did have to do with qualified part-time employees. So once we got that section rewritten, which was about 1.5 years or 2 ago, that did make a big difference, because it used to be it was a constant conflict, in terms of like accruals of hours, because of qualified part-time employees who read things differently in terms of, what the accrual rate was or the usage. And we track it in terms of hours, because there's really no other way to do it.
So why don't, for this update, why don't we focus on the.
On the
low hanging fruit? And
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
still other issues.
Yeah, I think there's a big, issue for the future
Okay.
of even the definition of full-time as 40 hours.
Yeah.
I think is something that needs to be
Yeah.
talked
Okay,
about.
all right.
There's a
And there's
big-
other policies.
I should have opened up a can of worms,
Yeah,
so, let's go for the low hanging
Okay,
fruit.
all right,
Although if we can deal with the days issue, I'd be happy.
at least specify what's meant.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Chris, any other discussion items on this? All right, all in favor?
thank you.
One thing I meant to mention on the vacation, Angus, I assume there's some memo that goes out to
Mhm.
All staff or just these people that asked for?
We would just notify those whose requests,
Yeah.
were taken up, but we'll send another reminder to those. I mean, I know in public safety, there's definitely some employees that, are not on track to use all their vacation.
All right, so item I, that's what we need to consider, we're rolling that into the whole personnel policy, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Item J. Proposed amendments to select board policies. I think this is a similar thing, in that Jim went through and identified all the, kind of low hanging fruit. I myself, and I would encourage you both to also go through and look at all the policies and see if there's things we can eliminate, if things need to be revised, or if we need to add things at some point, not just now. What page is that in?
It's page 81 of the aggregated packet.
Oh, okay, I didn't.
Oh,
Yeah, the page numbers was,
Okay, so that was part of the supplementary.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so I didn't have any issue with the changes that I made here. Did either of you?
We're just going through all of them?
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about the idea of doing a comprehensive review of this? I feel like it should be done by us at some point. But I would like to, if we have all these, let's just, get them corrected and go from there.
What I'm asking though is on J, are you looking to go through every one of these tonight, or you're looking to roll it into the public hearing later on all?
We don't need to.
Yeah, we don't need to
So the select board policy.
Okay.
So these, I was looking for us to approve these tonight. They're all minor. Was there anything substantive?
Well, the first one is the one I questioned because it's Wednesday, the date getting all information in.
Yeah, I think the intent of that was for other departments that tried to, ended up submitting stuff at the last minute. I mean,
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a bad idea to have a cutoff date, but Angus seemed to fear his email, I think it could be problematic, so.
yeah, the number of things that come up on Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
But they shouldn't, is what I'm saying,
Well,
unless it's a crisis.
But it's not other people, it's things that are coming through Angus's office that he's trying to deal with, so I don't think we should hamstring him and think that he wants, to be addressed. Especially with 2 weeks between the meetings. I think if you having been sharing, you might get a different view of that. That's looking forward to.
I believe other than that one, I think everything else is minor.
Well, there's the, clean up on the middle high school and the signs on property.
Yeah, so. Number 17.
Did you ever have the agenda items for Wednesday? Did that ever come up in the room?
Never.
Did you know it was there? I did not.
No.
Okay.
And I have read the select board policies and somehow I
Just
went
didn't
right by.
stick.
I probably went by, I said, it's not right. And just moved on, because there's been enough other stuff to think about that this, trouble's enough we had.
Number 17 talks about naming of streets.
Mhm.
Number 18 is not included here, there are also talks about naming of streets. Naming of town property and places, memorials, within it says, it's the policy of the select board, public ways and public buildings and facilities shall not be named for living persons, which I thought was curious. Because we have Daily Way, and Bill Daily is alive as far as I know,
Does that include streets?
public ways. Once the town accepts it, which they did, it's a public way.
The daily, that's great, that's not public.
That's not public?
No,
Yeah. Wow, okay.
yeah,
So, that's a whole nother question then. Have they requested it?
no, I believe it was, it was permitted before I got here, but it's specific in the approvals that it would not be brought forward for public acceptance in the planning board approval.
Is it marked private way?
No, it's open to the public.
No, that's not the same thing.
Right.
Usually towns will mark off those things that are private ways.
I don't think there's a sign there.
Yeah.
The way it used to happen is subdivisions would get built, and then 2 or 3 years after the developer had moved on, the residents would then submit to the town for acceptance.
Mhm.
Which, that's a whole nother debate for, I'm not gonna get into. So that will never come to the town for acceptance,
That's how the decision is written.
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah,
I prefer
I
that.
would be careful how I use the word never.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I would too.
Well, yeah, that becomes the issue, all right, great.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are things in terms of like the road design standards, whether width or on-street parking or configuration that probably doesn't strictly meet the subdivision rules and regs, and so they have more flexibility that they apply because but the exchange for that is they tell the developer it's never gonna be elevated. So,
Parsons Way was that way.
Right.
And then they eventually came and asked about becoming a public way, and then it was explained what it would take to
Right,
make it
it would have to
public.
be brought up to town standard.
Right, and then they decided it wasn't worth it. I think the reason you mark a street private is to inform the public that it's not a town-owned or town-maintained road, or that trash would be picked up on it, et cetera. That's the distinction. It's more about what services can go to that road.
What if it's insurance agent too?
Any further?
Yeah, my minor question, I mean, I have no problem with everything in there. Signs, and I understand that it was only corrected to eliminate the high school, middle school property, because we don't have any authority over that.
Yeah,
What about all the signs that get put up randomly around town?
Yeah.
Contractors and advertising.
yeah, Sam goes around and picks them up, there's a
If they're on
dump
private,
up on DPW or.
Okay, I just wonder what,
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
if they're on
it's gonna be a
private.
pretty sizable dump. Now, what about residents who have them up? There's some sandwich boards getting put up and things like that. How does that get handled? Because they haven't been removed. I'm just curious.
if it's on private property, do you mean on private property or you mean within road rights of way?
I gotta believe it's within the right of way of the road, yeah.
Okay, it's really a matter of if Sam sees it, he pulls it, but if he doesn't see it, he doesn't pull it, and,
he doesn't go looking for them.
yeah, it's not what he's doing, full time.
I would hope that's not a side, I'm just curious.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
see them and it's like, these guys just keep putting them up, where do they go when they disappear? Okay.
Yeah, so I think also if they're on the state road, that's not our right of way.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I don't.
We don't own it, but I suspect Sam probably treats it the same way.
Does it?
Yeah, I haven't talked to him about that specifically. but-
Okay.
Well, it's there, it's a matter of you encroach on property that you don't control.
Right.
You can't put up a sign on property you don't control.
Last question I've got is on number 35, variable message board placement.
Yeah, I have a question on this one too.
And my question on it is probably different than yours. Will the new speeding trailer be considered a variable message board?
No, I would say,
Why?
because it's,
You can't put.
this is specifically for the piece of equipment that we
Yeah.
purchased.
Right.
That's this is the one advertising for snowplow drivers, which I don't think is a health and safety related item.
Archie wouldn't like it. Archie was the one who was, he
Yeah.
was-
No, I'm serious. I see that sign and then I read this policy and I don't think that's an appropriate use of the sign. I mean, this is my opinion.
Which is an.
Down at the well field, there's a big, this sign says, you know, wanted snowplow drivers.
Yeah.
All DPW drivers.
You could argue it's overtaken.
But
That's
it's,
fine.
yeah, yeah, I mean, when this was put in place, it was specifically, I think, just what it says.
Yeah.
Only for, special situation.
Yeah,
I just wondered, there's no clear definition of a variable message board, and indirectly, that speeding trailer is a message that's telling what you're doing, so.
I think it's different. A message is like.
Message is, here's the speed limit, here's what you.
Well,
I'm just asking.
That's-
I think the word is variable. You can't change the speed limit sign.
Yeah,
Every car goes by, it'll change. No, I'm just saying,
You
I-
can't, you can't
clearly.
program it.
okay,
Give it a message.
yeah,
you
you can't.
respect to me.
All right. All right, any other questions on specific changes?
You read it, right?
Yeah, no, that was it. You know, was that an appropriate use?
Make a motion, we accept the amendments to the West Newbury Selectboard policy that I enumerated in the packet.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you for going through that, Jim. I'm sure that was a immediate impact.
Always fun. So,
Did you do this? Okay, thank you, Angus. I appreciate it.
Will the
And I
intention
didn't
be
take all
close to
agendas
this?
either.
So, I made quite a few.
He had more. but
So,
I did some screening.
at some point in the future, and it's obviously not a super high priority, should we go through this then?
I think
More
so.
detail?
What do you think is the best way to do that? For each of us to go through and bring it to a meeting as an agenda item, or?
You know, when we have everything else fixed.
Right. Right. I don't know the best way to do it,
Yeah,
but I
no,
do think we need to seriously look at these and
Yeah.
see if there are things that should be in there, you know, if some of these can be deleted.
And I think a similar kind of low hanging fruit approach, there's
Yeah.
definitely, you know, I think it would benefit from like, you know, a deeper dive, but for now, it just seems, if we're patching it, let's like make some other
Yeah,
quick fixes.
so can we put that on our future agenda?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. All right, next item. Consideration of potential new policy. Criteria. So in the last 2 weeks, 3 items came up on this, and that's why I asked for it to be. 2 were requests to use town publicity, the email blast, for things that weren't related to town business. So Angus and I decided no, but then there was one advertisement of a town-related event that somebody with a medical background in our community decided was inappropriate because it gave the appearance that the town condoned alternative medicine. And
We don't.
I'll just let you guess, we got my LinkedIn. So, but I think it's a valid point. I mean, if something comes out in your town email blast from the town of West Newbury, there's the assumption that the town supports it and thinks it's a good idea and.
Yeah, I would be very, very careful of doing
Yeah.
any of that.
So what, I mean, but how do we don't wanna micromanage every department, you know, what they're.
Yeah, so it was a library event, it wasn't a non-public event, it was
Yeah.
a library event.
And usually every library, but
Yes,
it's not really published.
yeah. So, but it's one thing for the library to advertise something on their Facebook page versus an email to come from the town of West Newbury. So I'm less concerned about that than I am about, you know, people that aren't associated with the town wanting to use us. Because if we say yes to some people and no to others, then I think we're opening ourselves up.
Well, you had your bullet points and
Yeah.
criteria. we
Yeah,
should
so
look
do
at.
you have any others that you wanna add? I just, you know, rattle those off.
Well, the only one I basically should be required is affiliation with town departments, or boards, committees, and,
Yeah,
you know, that should be required, whether it's profit or non-profit, I don't. It wasn't relevant, I didn't think.
okay.
How about, Chris, like Pentucket, so, you know, the Pentucket youth lacrosse, baseball, flag football, whatever, those are some of the things that early on when we got the LED sign, I would start getting requests and, you know, I would generally, I put them out there, but they're not affiliated with the town formally, but it seems like a community
I could
service.
almost say that is, I mean, it's not a outside source coming in doing it. The other thing, when they asked if there's other criteria, I put down, yes, approval of the town manager.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think, these things shouldn't be coming to this board. You know, if it's a town department, board, committee, or school, approval of the town manager, and if he deems it appropriate, no offensive or divisive, not political statement supportive of a candidate or an issue or an election, valid. Which the only exception to that could be if it was like the school committee budget. You know, to sit there and say support, you know, math, whatever the warrant article number 2, whatever it might be. So I mean, I don't think that would be appropriate for political candidates, but other than that,
A good example is one of the library board of trustees wanted us to advocate. Send this out saying, hey, whoever wants to advocate for an increase in this line item budget, sign up to this link.
Yeah,
And we didn't send that out.
yeah. So I mean, I definitely don't want the select board to be part of this decision. I'm not even sure it would be good for Angus. I mean, is that?
Well, that's one of the things is up until, you know, probably a year and a half ago or so, it was Jenny and I doing all of the messaging. And then when McCarron retired and we hired Jim and initially Christine Marshall, and then she moved on. So Rebecca, then the clerk's office has really become much more like managing the outward messaging. Either I or Rebecca still do some web posts from time to time, but the primary responsibility is now with the clerk's office, which has been a big help, because it's just one less thing for, now I just let him know when he does it wrong. Instead of-
Hey, Jim, that doesn't look right.
Yeah. So, but that's one of the things that now that there's really 4 individuals, you know, me, Rebecca, Jim, and Max, all with the login credentials, whether for the website, the e-blast, the Facebook, and the LED sign. I do think, you know, when Wendy had brought this up, you know, I think we both felt that having some guidelines, just so that we're all, you know, clear, and that it's not just dependent on who the request comes to in the organization. Maybe something gets posted that really, you know, shouldn't have been, or, you know, we get requests that come in that are not on their face unreasonable, but when you look at it from, you know, there was something that came in just recently about on the change to the state flag, you know.
I can imagine that. More.
Yeah, and we said in the request that other towns are using their website to promote this, and, you know, it just didn't feel right. That's not the kind of thing we've used it for. I get contacted many times over the course of the year by private organizations looking to market. That's a very easy no.
But when I said County Greenbelt, that they said put something about the fundraising for some.
Absolutely not for fundraising.
Right, but I could see that as
Right.
a reasonable, somebody saying, hey, why wouldn't you?
Right.
So there's a lot of gray area, so,
Yeah.
and I'm not,
A lot of
I'm not looking, trying to, you know, create an issue for an existing organization, but, you know, WN2, which I'm, you know,
Oh, that's true.
well,
It's
you
not-
know, I'm supportive of and, you know, attend some of their meetings, but, you know, requested that their yard sale, you know, their townwide yard sale be posted on the town website. You know, it's benefiting the town in terms of any funds that are gained will basically be spent on things in town, but it is not a town organization, you know, it's, you know, there's been some overlap with the CCRC, you know, climate change resiliency, I mean, very limited, but.
It's
you know,
similar
so-
to the garden club, I think,
Yeah, exactly.
which you do post things from garden club, right? So I think, yeah, so I think that's too limiting to just be affiliated with the town.
Yeah,
How could we expand that to include those groups that are, you
Well,
know?
again, this is the town's website. If people looking to get the word out, there are multiple other West Newbury websites they can post on.
Mhm.
You put the town in a hard position, if you open it up to a group, there are other groups who are gonna, without, again, their criteria or policy, you've got a lot of problems. So I think you gotta keep it very narrow, or you're gonna have a big problem.
I think the major thing that Rebecca and I are finding, especially for other towns that's happening, I mean, Boston, best example of the flag policy that they had, but I think it was the Ricker or another town that had to do something because they approved all these other things from happening as well. So I think that having a written policy, whatever it is, we can enforce it. But as long as we have a policy so we can do hard lines of yes and no, then it makes it easier. And we can deny people
And blame it on us.
justly,
Yeah.
as it were.
Yeah, I think guidelines is worth working toward. I think something that's, you know, we spent a fair amount of time on that Memorial Day policy. It's very hard when you get right down to it. It's very hard to codify what is or is not, you know, objectionable. I think having some guidelines is a good goal. I think that would be helpful, and happy to you know, to get that done, just so it's not an individual decision, but there's
Yeah.
some framework.
So what else besides affiliation with town departments could we use? I mean, for example, I had, it was a nonprofit that wanted to publicize tours of historic architecture in Newburyport.
What's that got to do with West Newbury would be my question, so maybe that's one of the criteria. It's gotta be relevant to
Yeah,
West Newbury.
yeah, if it was tours of historic architecture in West Newbury,
Mhm.
I think that'd be relevant. But it's, yeah,
All right, so that could be another criteria. That it's affiliated with the town of West Newbury or, well, but I don't know. So you could have, like that, you could have a group in West Newbury that has divisive or,
right,
you know,
yeah.
opinions, and how would you eliminate that?
Well, that's just gonna be one of the criteria, their opinions, what would be the group, I mean, anybody can't just say, I wanna put this out.
Yeah,
I would think it's, again, I like the affiliation of town departments or boards, committees,
okay.
that, and like you say, garden club,
Do we have a list of sanctioned organizations that we take?
No, I mean, we talked about this, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago when we were talking about the fee structure for use of facilities, and that became tricky.
Okay.
Because there had been a category, I think, of a different tier of fee for West Newbury organizations, but when you really put pen to paper, it's not as easy as it would seem.
Yeah. Well, could you use, this is really squishy language, but could you use, phrasing something like, and, you know, included in this would be, organizations that are generally recognized, as existing for the greater benefit, and generally is an important word, where there's something equivalent as existing for the benefit of residents or the town of West Newbury.
you could make an enumerated list of what those are, make it real easy, if you're not on this, you know. We're going through reviewing all these boards and committees, it's the start of your list,
I should think that's like dangerous,
why?
because
Because it's a value judgment.
who's on the list, who's
Yeah.
not on the list.
Well, if you're a board,
No, other boards were
Right,
clear on,
right.
but these are like, W went to garden club.
Other Boy Scouts included because they're West Newbury. I think.
Yeah, what about youth sports?
National organization.
But they're generally recognized.
Right, I like that, I think there's some value of having something that's guidance and a framework, but not as prescriptive as like, you're on the list, you're not on the list, I can really see that.
Yeah, I would say no hard list, definitely, I think that would be a cause problem.
So I just have to interject something real quickly.
No, okay.
So driving up to, Hike Mount Cardigan, going up to the AMC Lodge at Mount Cardigan, they've very well been there.
Mhm.
I can't remember the name of the town, but their highway garage, their DPW garage has this large sign with a 5-letter name on it.
For the town.
A very political sign.
Yeah.
Like 20 feet long, 5 feet high on the side of their highway garage. I don't know how they get away with it, but it's been there for 2 years, so. Because I've driven by it twice in the last 2 years, and each time I go,
That's amazing.
how in the world could that be?
So what about the question about this event that, you know, espouses alternative medicine or something, or herbal medicine? Is that a concern? I said I would bring it up, so I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, I don't think we should, get into, health recommendations or anything.
Right, but so by
So it's a library
publicizing,
function.
by publicizing the event, are we even doing it? That was the complaint. That was
I see.
It's a library function.
Right, but the question was raised,
Oh, I know.
yeah, so I'm asking the question.
I thought that was going, okay, I misunderstood the question,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean. It seems to me that there is an educational aspect there, you can take what you want from the education. You know, take whatever education you want from it, but,
And so if somebody decides not to seek medical treatment because they learned about herbal remedies at the library, or is the town at liability at risk?
It's that can of worms
I'm
again,
just-
here. No, I mean,
All right,
they can
so-
suppose it, the library someone on voodoo and witchcraft, I mean, next, who knows where it goes from there, once you
Yeah.
start down these paths,
Yeah.
I don't have the answer.
All right.
Generally, those events are put on by the Friends of the Library, and we try to make sure, when it is by the Friends of the Library, we said sponsored by the
It
Friends of the
does, it
Library.
does say that, but yeah, it is.
So that's not a board or committee or department,
Affiliated with the town.
generally recognized?
Right.
All right. Okay, I've done my duty.
I think it's a really good topic to have on a future agenda. I think it's, I don't think we'll figure it out tonight, but I think a framework would be helpful.
Okay. So how did we get there?
Planning and.
I think this is a good start.
It's been 10 minutes, that's why I'm wrapping it up.
Yeah, we'll supplement this with research, see what we can get on the town clerk, will service and things.
Okay,
And I think that if we can just have something that when somebody comes into us and we can say, check, check, no
if
check.
it's not one of those things, yeah. Okay. Clarification of policy regarding use of EV charging stations.
So we've done a little more research. I might suggest tabling this one, for the following reason. So we ran some financial reports on what we've generated in revenue and what the actual electric bills have been. And what they seem to be showing is that the revenues actually aren't covering the cost, but I want to make sure that we've got that right. And so maybe Rick, I can send to you all the data and you can spend a little time with that and come back, because I don't want to like rush into it.
Okay.
But I just got some reports today on expenses and revenues, and to my surprise, it looks like they don't actually cover.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because there's still not, at some point, it seems as though it has to ramp up. There are some regular users of the chargers here, not really at that page. There are more people.
The usage of the page is extremely low, it's like it's almost.
I can tell when I've been up there.
Yeah.
A little spike in the usage.
Yeah, if I look at the report.
I mean, what's the cost of this? Do you pay a base monthly fee or something, or how?
Well, you mean for the town, the cost of the electric?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an account fee, $10 a month, just like you and I pay at home. And then there's a kilowatt hour charge, and, so the current, monthly cost is probably 25 cents a kilowatt hour, and I think we're getting 35 cents a kilowatt hour. So we make, the delta there is 10 cents a kilowatt hour more than the incremental cost. But, so that would take 1,000 kilowatt hours.
Make it 10.
Yeah.
So unless we have.
So you lose $10 or $20 a month, is all we're talking about?
So.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's not,
Over the prior
before we spent that much money in the conversation.
Okay.
So based on this data, and obviously there's a little bit of a lag between when people plug in and when we get the revenues as well as when we get billed. So it's not, so the numbers don't align exactly, but roughly over the prior 12 months, for this one, it's cost us about a little over $1,900 and generated a little over $1,400 based on this. So, but I want to really go through this in detail, like that's what it's telling me at a glance. And then for Page School, it's cost us just under $300, and it's only generated about $60. So the net is, about, $770 in the red over the course of the prior 12 months. But this warrants a deeper dive.
And does that account for our portion of the installation cost?
No.
No, that's just the electric bill. So, even if it turns out that the gross revenues fall short of the expenses, that wouldn't preclude doing a year-end journal entry to like take whatever balance in that revolving fund and just receipt it toward that to offset the operating budget, even if it's not the full amount. But basically, after getting those numbers today, I said, I think this needs a little more work before you're asked to actually take any action, but.
And if you were to close one, would it then bring that usage down to here and
Well, we got grants to install them, so, you know.
Yeah, no, we can't, yeah, I don't think there's any consideration of not operating them. It's just how to handle the money that they're, the revenue they are generating.
I mean, we could charge more, right?
We could, and then we could probably get less business.
right, exactly, that's the problem with Chuck.
Yeah, so I mean, we're already high, yeah. But, so.
So you're obligated to keep them running despite the loss.
Right.
Right. Okay.
But it's not like it's a huge loss.
No.
We're losing, 0.0001% or something.
And I
like
think
that.
for the loss, in the course of the year, I think it's a good opportunity to have it here.
Right, right.
No, I'm just thinking of the page school one as being less desirable.
Yeah, at some point, Rob, a teacher is gonna have an electric car, and the numbers are gonna go up, and then two teachers will have electric cars. And
Eventually, we're all gonna have them, so.
yeah, I mean, it's gonna happen, it's just a question of when. And quite honestly, I figured by now, some staff member paid to be driving an electric car, I'm kind of shocked. But
Probably using an extension cord instead.
Right.
All right, item M, select board liaison updates. Either of you been to any meetings, you want to take this one?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, I just got the list on September 25th, which I requested. And my intention is to send emails to each of these people and say, I'm here. Actually, I'm going to, I've been to FinCom meetings. Wait a minute. Last week I was. I've been there. What's the other one I got coming up this week? Oh, planning board.
Planning board's tomorrow, right?
I can't make that one. I was thinking Thursday we had that forum. That's the next week. I'll be at that one.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to FinCom on my first Wednesday.
No tree committee.
Yeah. I saw Fred the other day. Does that count?
No.
You didn't say we had to go to the meeting. You said you didn't liaison. Just connect them.
Just.
That's what I intend to do. No, I will go to some of them, and particularly when they get closer to, the Emerald Ash Borer. By the way, I was looking, there's a nice link on the website about that whole study, and don't ask me why I was doing through it. And we talked about the clusters of trees, and yes, the 4 trees in that cluster are one. How they quantified it within the study. We debated that in the other day.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with me going to the meeting, so.
All right. Rick, anything to report?
No, I've been to a couple of meetings of different committees, but nothing to report.
Oh, I am going on a road trip tomorrow. Yes, as I know.
That's great.
Is everybody here going?
I am.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Great.
Max said I get to wear the captain's hat.
Next to the tradition, we throw the captain into
They walked the game.
All right, item N, town manager recommendations. Okay, so this is the follow-up to goals and priorities. So I basically just added Angus's rankings in. I just wanted to highlight the ones that were different from our aggregate. First one is stabilization fund. Angus
And if I could just a little background, so what I put them into kind of the boxes, that you see, these kind of boxes. I kind of did it blind, I didn't do it with yours, it was just kind of my own kind of gut instinct of like how I'm looking at things.
But
And so-
that's why it's valuable.
No, it is, yeah, but I wanted everyone to understand, I wasn't like, going out.
Disagreeing with
It
No.
was, no, so the whole point, and so I carry these 4 sheets around and it's just a helpful reference, like if I'm having staff meetings to kind of remember to touch on different things, and so I had given a copy to Wendy, and we both agreed it would actually be really interesting to do what she did, and then to kind of focus on which ones were different, and then we could just kind of talk through how do we want to think of those things in terms of priority.
Yeah, so that stabilization fund, that's obviously B3 is the lowest you can get, so that's not high in your.
Well, and I'll tell you why, I agree with it philosophically, but it does strike me as a bit of a thought exercise, which when we're in triage, it's kind of hard to, oh yeah, let's go spend, but I could be overcomplicating it. the way I think about this is in effect, the stabilization fund has been used for a long time for capital items solely. It's not been used, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not been used for anything but that. So like, technically, a stabilization fund can be used for any lawful purpose, but in practice, it's been used for a long time for capital. So getting it formally moved over to capital is not a bad idea, but it does, raise questions about what do you leave in regular stabilization? What are those things where you might need that, whether it's any others, different things. So it seems to me in this context, a little bit of an academic exercise. I don't disagree with it. It's just not something I would prioritize a lot of staff time toward.
Okay. What else do we have? MBTA. So I think some of these are things that we've already committed to and or have to be done, like the
That's
hazard
right.
mitigation plan, that.
It's exactly, it's a
So,
mandate. We have to do it. So to me,
That,
yeah,
that makes it rise, yeah.
not so much a value judgment as like, we have to do it.
Yeah,
Same with the rotating, the wage classification, this is one that's, even though that study's done, the process of setting out performance evaluations and getting that on a regular calendar that all supervisors are all doing the same method and the same timing. That's not only a very, very big job, but it's also very, very important because the board's been clear that's gonna be a prerequisite to any consideration of non-COLA adjustments.
Mhm.
So that makes it really, really important to people on staff. But it's something that's, it's not a few hours of work, it's like a lot of work. So I think the suggestion, seeing if there's some platform, performance eval platform that can make that more time efficient is well worth looking at. So we're looking at some different software options on that might make that more attainable to do. If there was only one, appointing authority and everyone worked for that town manager, that would be one thing, but it gets kind of orders of magnitude more complicated when you have different parts of the organization with different supervisory structures and different cultural, kind of background in terms of like performance evals. If someone's been on staff for 18, 19, 20 years, never been evaluated, and now all of a sudden you're looking to set out an annual thing, that's gonna cause some time.
yeah, or if they've been using a different evaluation form, their own form.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I definitely view it as like enormously important. It's
No,
not
I
something
agree.
we can find a whole lot of time for, unfortunately, but it is very, very important.
It's interesting, the cable license agreement we were just talking about. So you view that as urgent, but next year,
Yeah, it's not due for,
25, 26, right?
yeah, although I saw in their document that Comcast ended in 2025, is that correct? I thought their document said one was in 25 and one was in 26.
Yeah, it did, Verizon's 26, but it says we can renegotiate that early, right, up to 2 years?
Yeah.
I thought the reason that was shown there, I thought I heard at one point that Verizon had actually reached out to the town and was trying
They
to
did.
agitate.
They did.
Or maybe agitate isn't the right.
Yeah, there's a form letter, but yeah, it was basically, it was saying,
Hey, it's up in a couple of years.
yeah, don't let it sneak up on you, and it's,
So we can deal with that next year, right?
yeah, I mean, we oughta, we'll see
Yeah,
the role of the committee that could help.
so hazard mitigation, housing production plan, again, those are.
Mandated.
things we have to do.
Yeah. It's definitely not how I would be choosing to spend the kind of time we're spending, but it's mandated and we have to do it, so.
Floaters and sailors, that's interesting. Yes. Will not go away. So you view that as urgent for next year, nice?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, I might rethink that a little bit, but I think at some point, but it's the same thing I said to the board back in 2018, like, we gotta be intentional about what we're doing, and if we're gonna intentionally not do anything, that's fine, if that's a conscious decision and
Yeah.
not just like, inertia.
Mhm.
But as we all know, it's not been for lack of effort,
Yeah.
it's just,
Is there no third party interest in that at this point?
We haven't heard of, I mean, there's no.
oh, we can't know that without doing a procurement?
Nobody's knocked on your door, said, hey, what's going on?
No.
The other one I found interesting is the fire department, you know, reorganization. I think that's. And that could be really, important, but it seems like an awful lot of work to really figure that out. And
Yeah.
Well, so Dwyer had come to me probably 2 years ago with a vendor proposal to actually do that.
Yeah.
And I forget exactly what was going on at the time, and he made clear he wasn't expecting us to like get right on it, but he wanted us to know that there's this company out there that will come in and do this assessment. It sounded very interesting, and I mean, I could dust that off and put it onto a future agenda, and you can talk to Dwyer, and it might be something we might wanna bump up the list, because it is both, operational, but also asset, you know, so like, what vehicles, do we need all the vehicles we have? You know, it's potentially got big implications for capital budgeting, as well as, you know, the idea of staffing, and since my first conversation with Mike back in the summer of 2018, he talked about his concern about the lack of daytime coverage, and then more of the reserve, you know, crew had less availability during days just because of how the economy has changed. And, you know, he's definitely thought that at some point creating some daytime coverage would be a smart decision. I doubt that's the kind of decision that's going to be made without a pretty intensive thinking about that. So it seems having, you know, an outside perspective on that could be helpful, but, you know, you'd want to make sure it was like an objective evaluation and not like a preordained conclusion.
Yeah.
But it's something that, you know, in my notes, it goes back to July of 2018 was the first conversation.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
So it's kind of like, I'm very aware that like, it's languished, you know, amid the many other things, and it's never really risen to even like a board discussion, so.
Oh, for him either. I mean,
Mhm.
I talked to him about it, but he hasn't really pushed it.
Yeah, no, it's not something that's been pushed, it's just, it was notes I took in my first meeting with him right out of the gate, and it just was something that ended up on my list that just didn't really ever go anywhere on there, so.
Any others that you wanna ask questions on? All right. I like this, the graphic of the balance between the role of the board and the manager. I don't think I've seen that before.
It came across the listserv in Maine years ago, and I love it. I think it's elegant, simple,
yeah.
and you know, it's not, you know, I think it kind of it conveys a lot.
You gave me this a while ago.
Yeah.
And I took it home and I looked at it for a while, and I just took on the upper right-hand corner, and I made a little line down across, because the manager actually does have a little bit in goals.
Mhm.
You know, it's not straight to the corner.
That's fair, yeah,
So
yeah.
bring it over a little bit.
You'd like to think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, yeah, no doubt about that.
Well, I mean, I wanna hear before we say this is the
Yeah.
goal. You might say you're either on target or you're a bunch of clowns. That's helpful to know before you start down the wrong path. So, I mean, you should have some input in that. Other than that, it makes it very simple, like, well, keep your fingers out of the management, select board people.
Yeah.
It is not exactly how we're structured here, but I think in terms of how that form of government is kind of designed to work, I think this is a nice little encapsulation.
So I like these interdepartmental working groups too. I mean, there's some redundancy, like highways,
That's good.
you know, 2 or 3 of them, right?
Yeah, and a couple of them haven't, really the ones that have really taken hold are, actually, it still says planning and development. I've been calling it planning and land management is a more inclusive and more reflective, and then the finance administration. These two have really taken hold. Infrastructure, we've got, a meeting actually tomorrow where we're going through the capital program, you know, in detail, and I've gotten quite a lot of response from department heads, so we're working to get that all into the updated capital program, but that's more, I see that as like every, you know, 1 to 3 months. It's not like a weekly or bi-weekly thing. Public services, I haven't even convened a meeting because it covers so much, and I really haven't had the bandwidth to follow through. I mean, I could get a meeting on the calendar, but to actually really like have that become how we organize the way, like the planning, that's now become a major part of how those departments are communicating, because we're now meeting pretty much every 2 weeks. The last one we had, I think was last week or so, was like 2.5 hours long meeting, but we covered a ton of ground.
Mhm.
So, you know, I'd like to get to a similar place with this collection. And there's a lot of things that are, I think would really lend themselves to more of a team approach, whether that's the Memorial Day Parade or whether that's, you know, some other kind of community service type or like public kind of, I mean, it's a pretty inclusive or pretty broad scope. But I haven't really put together like a working group there yet, but I think it would benefit from that. We just haven't really had that. I don't like starting something I feel that I can't finish.
Sure, yeah.
So I want to kind of get it off on the right foot, you know, and organized enough to do so.
And I like these blocks that give your vital, important and optional, just in, you know, one group.
Yeah, it's just kind of at a glance, you know, these can change, but they've been pretty durable. You know, I think they're definitely kind of pretty accurate reflection of at least how I'm looking at things.
Mhm. Mhm.
This matches, I assume those match your ratings pretty closely?
Yeah, actually, so I just gave Wendy these slides and she then extrapolated from those to
Oh,
assign the
okay.
ratings, so
Okay.
she made it very easy for me.
So how do you see this document being used? Just to,
I think it's a good, you know, I think having it on tonight's a good just touchstone that if any of you saw something that was like wildly off, you can say, hey, what's this all about? You know, so I think until we have, you know, any kind of like formal adoption of goals, which I think, you know, we're not that far off from, but in the meantime, I think it's just good to continue to share information. So if it looks like we're out of sync, that we can, you know, try to stay in alignment.
okay.
On the town center traffic calming, the 50K earmark, is there a timeline on that?
There is FY26.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have some time, which is exactly why we had kind of not put it on the front burner.
Okay.
And when Wayne was here, we had a certain approach to that, but obviously with the change, we need to see how things shake out.
Yeah.
And you know, we had actually been thinking we would want to engage a different engineering firm, just to kind of have a different set of eyes.
We talked about that.
But now there might be a benefit to roll it into the corridor study if we decide to do that.
Anything on your end of this?
Yeah, it's not on this per se, it's the one issue that it's not our initiative or goals or priorities, but never been discussed that I know. The pollution in the Merrimack. It's never come up in a meeting yet.
Mhm.
I mean, the river runs right through the town, it's disgusting, and I think at some point we have to start advocating for something to be done better there.
You mean the
CSO?
CSOs?
Yeah.
So you don't feel like the notifications are, by then it's too late, right?
Well, yeah, it's
Just
already,
like
it's
stay out of
floating
water.
by, stay out of the water, yeah. Like the inherent issue, somebody, I can't remember who it was, wrote a letter to the editor a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
They said it's your, I'll use that word, it's your stuff, you know, make storage tanks and let it, you know, accommodate. It was a good, who the heck wrote it? It was somebody, but that was a really well done letter.
I think it's one of the city councils in Newburyport, suggested, that they, what their action was gonna be, they should find other communities. That's not.
No, this was a solution. It was somebody from West Newbury, I think, wrote it.
Yeah,
And it said basically, put a 1,000,000-gallon storage tank in the river, let the excess effluent into the tank and let it weep out when back into the facility when it can be accommodated after the event. I don't know if it's a valid option or not, but we gotta start working with legislators and probably at the federal level to have something. This is disgusting. I don't know if you kayak or not, I don't anymore after being out there on one of these.
This would be a great time right now, if you haven't rained for a few days.
Yeah, well, good luck. Still stuff to get stuck to come down. I mean, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, the river was a waste pit. It got
It
cleaned,
was a rolling sewer.
yeah, it got cleaned up, and in the last 10 years, these CSOs, or whatever you wanna call them, I've got other words for it. It's disgusting and how communities
So
allow
Chris,
us to continue without being outraged.
you know what, Chris, I just think we're aware of the CSOs now, I don't think they didn't
Yeah, it's
exist
not
20
new.
years from now.
now they're just required to.
Yeah,
notify.
Not at the level that they do, you used to be able to, I mean, there used to be a poor fellow in Rock Village used to swim in the river every day. He drowned.
All right,
No, it
so,
used to be clean, and so just we've got blinders on, I feel, as a community. And there should be outrage, I mean, I won't go on a paddleboard or a kayak on that river again after 6 or 7 years ago being out there, it was disgusting.
yeah, no, I've been on, it was pretty nasty, I will go on it.
The fact that it's
In certain
allowed,
conditions.
so there's no reference to it on any of these.
so is that really a select board initiative, or is that,
Well,
I don't
you're
know,
supposed to be setting, priorities for the town, probably.
right, do we have an ongoing list of new initiatives and priorities?
Do you see it differently, I guess?
I don't think there's anything that, other than expressing our dismay, I don't think there's anything that West Newbury can legally or functionally do.
Well, sometimes dismay and outrage is.
That isn't already, that there isn't already, effort going on, so there was a committee, Chris,
Let's try not to get too
yeah, okay,
sidetracked,
yeah,
but-
right, so, yeah, I won't go there, so, because we can talk about it for a half hour. I agree that it's a big problem, but I think that they're bigger forces than the town of West Newbury that are becoming engaged and need to become even more engaged. That's
I wrote it
my
down for
impression.
Manning influence. Right?
Trying to wrap up the discussion of that.
Sometimes that's the only way to wrap it up. Duly note, write it down and move on.
It does think, both literally and figuratively.
I
Yeah,
still
that issue.
kayak in the river.
I do too, but I choose my days.
Okay. All right, item. Oh. Oh,
Yeah.
potential to initiate facilitated goal setting prior. Jeez, look at that, that led right into it. You wanna give the update? on that?
Yeah, sure. So, back when I was in Westford in the early 2010s, I had, the town manager that I worked for had set up a management, training, leadership development, training, that was initially for the 10 or so kind of senior department heads. I oversaw like 5 departments, so I was kind of in that, in that tier, and it was so good. And then she did another for like the next tier down, which was like another 10 department heads. Westford's a much bigger town than West Newbury, obviously. But anyhow, the trainer, the management consultant, a guy named Mark Way, who's I found very exceptional. I learned a lot from him, and he was great. And so, coming out of the discussion that we had back in July about goal setting and just the whole universe of projects and the bandwidth issues, and despite kind of everyone's best efforts and working, really hard, it still feels like there's like more at the end of every week than there was at the beginning. And so anyhow, I'd started talking to Wendy, and we felt like we really need to kind of, I think we're closer than we've ever been, but we really need to somehow take the reins and then make that like durable with boards, commissions, and committees to kind of get to more of like a coordinated, unified work program rather than just whack-a-mole. And so I had, reached out to this consultant, he's based in Carlisle, Mass. About a month ago, Rebecca and I had about a 40-minute call with him just to kind of give him the gist of it, the lay of the land, and then it basically reminded me exactly why I have such a high opinion of this guy. And so we had set a follow-up call that took place last week with Wendy. Both these were Zoom meetings, so we talked for about half an hour or so. And based on the observations, the objectives, you know, he had offered, we had invited him to basically give us a proposal as to how he felt he might be able to help. And the idea would be a facilitated process, basically like a goal setting workshop, but to have actually like an outside independent help us get to where we're trying to go. And so I don't want to speak for Wendy in terms of what your impressions were, but it is something that, I think we felt very favorable about coming out of that. So we wanted to at least make the board aware that this is something that we are, at least looking into. And if it's something we want to go forward with, I think we could engage him. He's actually very, his proposal was quite modest in terms of cost. Would be well within the operating budget. But to look at maybe some dates over the next, 4 to 6 weeks that we might be able to commit to a block of, he said 2 to 3 hours. I think 3 hours is, I don't think 2 hours is going to do it. But we wanted to brief the board that that's something that we're kind of looking into.
Yeah, I think, potentially he could do a lot more, in terms of other objectives that Angus has identified for, departments and so forth. But I feel like in terms of managing this workload, even though we have it organized in a table and charts, it's still like, there's no way, that we, Angus and staff can address everything. So just in the span of 15 minutes, and, Angus and I ultimately describing the situation, people can't take vacations, there's like constant fires to put out. He very insightfully just cut right through to, some observations. And I really feel like he could help us try to get our priorities established so that we can then, move on to managing boards and committees and their asks of Angus and staff and what we want to put our efforts into. So I think it would be a great an exercise, and I think it could lead to other workshops within the town that I think Angus is, the departments and Angus's management of them would find beneficial. He's a very calming, he's a Swiss guy, just a really delightful guy. So if you guys are up for it, I think it could be really useful. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, that we wanted to look into it.
I'm open. Yeah, I've never worked with, being various facilitators and such. He's not a facilitator, but sort of this crossing between a facilitator and, management consultant and who knows what else, but it sounds like. I'm open to the idea, and hopefully there's, some real positive takeaway for it. It'd be interesting to, if you could, share the, this proposal, it'd be interesting in seeing that. In the grand scheme of things, wondering about the cost is trivial, but I can't help but wonder where we said it could be within the budget.
My jobs.
Right, okay.
So
So could fall within.
The meeting's being recorded.
What?
The meeting's being recorded, yeah, that, right.
Okay, fine.
Like less than $1,000.
Oh, yeah. For the one,
Yeah,
session, but.
But his point, like similar to what I was trying to get at with the publicity thing, his idea was to come up with criteria of, what are our priorities so that can be communicated to boards and committees. So it's not just we determine which projects are the priority, and then everybody's like, well, you know, they don't understand why. So it's just more of a standardized approach to things.
Right, so, you know, for instance, mandated functions, or if there's, you know, money that's been awarded, it's gotta be used by a certain date, or if it's a potential liability issue, if we don't deal with it timely, though, you know, there's certain objective criteria that the board is certainly considering, I'm considering in terms of why there are certain things that are seen as absolutely have to do them, and others, much as, you know, we might think they're every bit as important, but they don't have those same objective urgency. So that was the idea, is to come up with criteria that would help to kind of objectively prioritize, you know, what's driving the prioritization. In part to help to kind of foster, you know, a collective recognition of priorities and not a competing thing.
Or top down, like,
Yeah.
deciding on everything. Chris, any thoughts? Don't strike me as a management consultant kind of guy.
Oh, that's anything, yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
All right.
I mean, is it select board in Angus, or what is it, I don't know what,
Yeah, that's what we were talking about.
Initially,
I
yeah.
mean, it'd be a public meeting, but it would just be, like, we did a workshop a
would
couple.
Jenny be involved, and,
You know, we haven't gotten to that point. I think, it would be
it'd be a small
probably,
meeting.
yeah, and assuming it's like, you know, probably ends up on a Saturday or whatever, I wanna, you know, balance between that. Like, come help us have your work list. Why don't you come on Saturday, you know, but, yeah, we got the
Okay,
proposal
they'll be in.
late last week. I think it was Friday afternoon. We just talked with them last Wednesday. And, you know, I felt like, you know, rather than just put the proposal in here, I wanted to have a little more time to chew on it and make sure it was like right on point with exactly what we want. Cause I mean, I would love, you know, we had talked about some things, you know, that were much more expansive in terms of ways, you know, we might be able to get help, but we wanted to start with something kind of bite-sized. Cause there are definitely a number of areas where I think we could benefit from assistance. You know, including working with kind of senior staff and really, you know, similar to what was done in Westford, but we want to go stepwise.
So it sounds like we have agreement, so we wanna propose some dates by email or how?
Yeah, I can send out an email with some options on the dates looking ahead, whether it ends up being a weeknight or a weekend day. But I'll make a note to send out dates.
What consultant want to do that?
What's that?
You said, I don't seem like, I'm listening to consultant, huh?
They don't seem like it. Good.
I could listen to.
All right, I think we are on this. IMP. I had anything on the first page,
Yeah,
okay?
it occurs twice, and it's just a personal beef.
Mhm.
Article 19, paragraph, it says Christine Marshall testified. She didn't testify, she spoke. It's not a court hearing. Same with on the next one, Articles 8 through 10, Chief Dwyer testified.
Yeah, I noticed it on Friday. Yeah.
Max is trying to make things interesting.
So we have,
It's so colorful.
so what document, I mean, I'm on the Thursday, September 14th, I'm not on the online, I'm on the ones that we got as emails.
Yes, it was the one set of minutes. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
right,
right.
so, okay.
All right,
Um,
anything else on the first page?
yeah, so, this is item D, the second paragraph, fourth line down, it says, would come in handy with respect to events and trips undertaken by the COA, so that the participants would not pay. I think it was wouldn't have to pay on site, you know, we have to pay at the location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Or individually, whatever,
Yeah, they do have to pay, but just that time.
and then, still on the same page, next paragraph down, the seventh line, says Parker admitted there was a fair amount of funds accumulated in cable fees.
Mhm.
I swear, I didn't do it, I didn't do that. So so I might have noted that there are, I
Yeah.
might have noted that there are a fair amount
I
of.
think it's an admission.
Next, use some colorful language here.
So, okay, that's all I had on that page.
Okay, second page,
Yeah.
second sentence, I believe it was hydrogen sulfide, not hydrogen cyanide.
I don't know.
I hope not.
Typically it's carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, so, but I can check with Chief Dwyer.
You know what? It's interesting, because I would think hydrogen sulfide, but I may have heard of hydrogen
Really?
cyanide as well. You should check with that.
All right,
Or,
Does it
It might
matter?
be in the narrative.
yeah,
Just strike the whole,
Or just,
You can just strike it.
down the end of that paragraph, it's Parker made the motion, Parker seconded the motion, but she didn't do either
I mean, you
one.
could just say instead, need to purchase new gas meters to detect toxic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Toxic gases.
just delete the whole parentheses. On that one, though, the motion was made by me and seconded by Wendy, Rick didn't make it in second.
Yeah, well, I kind of like that. It's the first time I've ever been able to do that. Make the motion.
It'll make the
second,
meeting
get
go
away with
quicker,
it.
right?
And then I voted.
You voted in favor of all three of us.
Voted unanimous. Okay. And then the next paragraph down, the water commissioner is faced with pressure from the Massachusetts Department of Revenue.
There's a lot of these in here, you just gotta.
I think, essentially the problem was that water commissioners had a budget that.
I think it's accurate.
Okay, well, if everybody else is happy with that.
I'd like to see that
Rephrase, yeah. They get to the next.
I guess to keep yourself entertained.
Yeah, exactly.
Next paragraph.
No.
All right, the next paragraph, halfway down. I would prefer not to say that he forgot to fill out the article request form. I can just fudge that a little bit. I don't even know if that's true, but,
What's going on, sorry?
this is the $600 for the landfill monitoring.
Yeah, I saw that too, and said it should be there, but I wasn't gonna.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't forget.
Yeah, no.
Came in.
I just-
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave it in there and trying us under the bus.
Last paragraph, second sentence, Phillips relayed that a Commonwealth judge ruled that short-term rentals were problematic. Do you remember that comment, Rob?
Oh, sure, yeah, we spoke to it, I don't know if I would,
The judge didn't rule that though, it was just,
the Supreme Judicial Court upheld the land court ruling that short-term rentals were not by right.
okay, so
Yeah,
instead of problematic.
So in defense of Max, I think your exact wording may have been, but out of context, it doesn't mean the same thing as it meant in context. You may have used the word problematic, because I remember sort of flinching and thinking, well, that makes sense in context. But I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, would you be offended if we changed it to?
Oh, no, please, change everything.
Change it to Mr.
They
Phillips.
get some people that change everything to what you recall that makes sense, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paragraph before that one.
Oh,
Same page.
yep,
Article 16, it says, the room didn't debate anything. People may have debated it, but even the whole sentence, like, the room debated the potential success of the passage of draft Article 16, that should just be stricken.
all right,
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Kind of the whole point of the meeting.
It should also
Also,
count
yeah.
well.
Yeah, I would say on Article 16, Accountant Walsh explains.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you guys are really good at reading minutes, look at that.
Wendy made the
We
second.
don't have anything else to do,
Parker on that one, if it's relevant.
are you writing down who makes the motions and second?
That's pretty good. So wait, so,
He's.
so what was it on there? I didn't second?
So,
You could use mine for minutes, I mean. Right now, I haven't got this, but
See, that was Article 16, Chris,
yes,
and mine you seconded it.
yeah.
I always figure that if I really wonder about something, I can just go look at the recording.
Right, if anybody.
Yeah, if anybody, nobody cares.
No kidding, because,
We irritate them enough.
Chris, did you take who made the motion, who seconded it only for the select board, or did you do the FinCom too?
Did you?
So I don't think I seconded anything, I tended not to want to. So it excites me to second it
I
something.
wasn't paying attention, I only care about us, right?
Okay, okay,
That's your-
there you go, that's what I asked. Okay, good.
Where does it say you seconded, Rob?
One of the early ones, I don't think I did it, but.
No, I think Ann seconded
It was Dan and Anna, most, I kept writing.
Yeah,
Dan and
exactly,
Anna.
and I wanted someone else seconding it, not me, so I don't think it was me. But that's to Wendy's point of, how can Max even know sometimes who's speaking?
Well, you wouldn't have the voice, you might not even heard it.
I know, because the way we seconded it wasn't really,
Yeah.
it wasn't good. I mean, I think these are wonderful minutes given the circumstances.
Oh, yeah, be listening to them rather than in person, yeah.
The last one I had on the second paragraph,
Page.
the third page, just delete the word fair in discussion, just say discussion.
Where?
The room decided to put the article off after discussion on that. I wouldn't describe it as
Which article?
25, so.
Also, I would like it to, while felt that approving the draft article would be foolish, understanding who would be. I'm not sure I said.
You did say,
Did I?
you always say.
Okay, then leave it. Next time I'll say idiotic. I would have said not approved, but okay.
That's what you wish you would say.
That's right.
Correct?
All right, is that everything?
I'm good from here.
All right, Chris, you good?
We all need to be last.
You're right. How about a motion to approve?
I approve.
Amended.
I move that we approve the minutes of, whatever day it was, September 14th, 2023, as amended.
All right, on favor.
Now I have a question.
What?
Now that you've done the minutes, they come over to us.
No. We'll have.
I'm fine. No, I am fine.
That's what I mean, it should be this one and the same, yeah, it should, no redundancy.
yeah, I think we could just.
Yeah. You just copy it, done.
I could gently inform the rest of the members
Do you think
that it's already been adequately reviewed.
Hey, Rocky,
Here, sign here.
do you think you can get a quorum to get here now and they can?
Yeah, that was when I was
Try calling and see.
So we'll, Angus and I will figure out how to handle that. It's not coming up on this next agenda.
Right.
So.
Well,
Right.
they're ready now.
All right, item Q. Another 7 minutes.
So, yeah, this is off to a great start.
Yeah.
It's a really, you know, it's a terrific project, great group of people involved, and, yeah, I think it's very exciting. There's a lot of content in there. I don't want to belabor it, but, there's, yeah, no, it's a big thing. I did estimate to, I don't know if it was to Rick or to Wendy, but my guess is when all's said and done, probably 20 or 30% of the total effort's gonna be toward grant administration rather than the work, and that's just a consequence of a very prescriptive grant bid making office, but it's still, it's a terrific initiative, so.
I think the state program is really focused on actually getting usable material and having results to show to other communities too. You know. Get others on board.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're right, it's a huge amount of administration.
Yeah.
And we'd be lost without Lisa.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was one thing I didn't include, but we handed out at the meeting Thursday, which she had taken the entire scope, every action item that's gotta happen, every step of the
For
way,
the next 9 months or 10
and
months.
very specifically who's in charge, which is like great, because it just makes sure nothing, you know, everyone knows what they need to do.
Right.
everyone does what they need to do, we'll be fine. But if, you know, I know you had a lot of info in the packet, but if you didn't find the time to read these minutes from Thursday's meeting, it's worth reading because there's some other, you know, breadcrumbs in there from other stuff that we haven't talked about, like stormwater app, the mobile app. There's different things that this is kind of I think gonna help us on a number of levels, not just with that geographic area, but helping us do things that are even replicable here within the community, not just, you know, for other communities. To a good start. Very good start. Oh, I did want to just, while we have you confirm, actually, there's two items. One is just to confirm that no separate board approval is needed for the signs involved with the grant. We've got to put up some signage, and that had been made specific to the board at the time that you approved submittal of the grant. It was made clear that there would be these signs, and so I had kind of suggested to the working group that personally, I didn't feel that another board vote was needed to approve temporary signs, because they don't meet the policy anyway. It's gonna be more than 4 weeks. So it seemed like, once those signs are ready, that we ought to just let the CCRC kind of do what they're doing. The vendor, Gulf of Maine, is preparing signs. They'll send them to the committee. I'm sure if the committee has adjustments, I'm sure they'll be great.
So these are public information signs at the sites.
Correct.
Yeah,
They're required
There'll be
condition.
one on, I think, there'll be one on either end of River Road, there may be one or two other signs as well, but, you know, essentially one of the, well, I say on either end of River Road, at the junction of, Coffin and River Road, again, one on the other end.
Assumption that these will be larger than typically allowed to.
They're not gonna be huge,
No, it's just more the duration. They're gonna
I
exceed.
don't know, probably the way, you know,
Yeah,
didn't acknowledge it when we did the first vote, but if you need another, I don't know. I envision them, you know, fairly large for information.
yeah, I don't recall now the actual size of them, but they're not gonna be huge. But
once
it's
we have
sort of
that,
now,
we're happy to share them around.
Grant.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember
yeah,
discussing.
right,
Yeah,
and there's sort of, in a way, it's analogous to the, CPA or CPC signs, which, you know.
That's what I assumed, like, it was on
Which
Grant
have to
Farm.
go up at the sites where the funds are being expended, and they have to stay there for some period of time. I don't know what the duration typically is, but it's, you know, I see it's being quite analogous to that.
so then the next part of this agenda item is, to consider whether to pursue consolidated outreach planning event or separate events, and in the discussion on Thursday, we all kind of collectively felt that River Road and Route 113 corridor and MBTA communities did feel a bit unwieldy. But we felt that if we did something on River Road and Route 113, that could be a nice synergy. So there's been some follow-up correspondence today on dates, based on different consultants' availabilities, and I had sent a note to Sue Brown on this, and she responded. She said it sounded fine, so and that was that we look to have something on November 9th that would be regarding the River Road and the Route 113. And then November 15th for an MBTA Communities public forum. And I think if those dates work, we'd like to get some dates in circulation sooner than later, to be followed by more kind of specific outreach in the next few weeks. But initially, we at least want to get dates pinned down. So November 15th for MBTA Communities, and November 9th would be a public forum that would address both River Road and the Route 113 corridor planning.
And, how many, Was there any discussion of likely timing for each of those?
Not this, we talked about it a while back, but that was, I don't remember, I mean, evening.
Yeah, okay, I'll block out from 5 to 10. Sure. Something like that.
Awesome.
I don't expect anything wrong, but I'm not gonna do anything else, that's the point.
Good. Next item, as you know, we had the request come in for the, so-called, what's it called, certificate of approval. That's not before you tonight, as you know, that's a substantive review that both you and the Concom are co-holders of the APR, so. But we just wanted to provide an update on the process that is being followed. And, so Michelle and I, the conservation agent, and we've been in touch with the State Department of Ag a couple of times. We've been in touch with the property owners, and we had agreed there's gonna be a site walk to review a number of things, and, that's scheduled for this Thursday, and both Wendy and Molly Hawkins, as the two chairs of the bodies, are gonna be present for that, as is someone from the Department of Ag. So that's kind of a reconnaissance. So. It's a number of. We did learn some things from the Department of Ag that we hadn't known in terms of request that was submitted there earlier this year and that was denied. And they're awaiting more information before they would even consider a so-called POA. So that's
Stumpy said something else that was requested earlier in the year, like.
to do with so there's some question about potential stockpiling of materials on the site, which if that's going on is not allowed under the APR. And so we were told that Department of Ag had advised the property owner that there's a special permit process that the Department of Ag administers that can allow for that under certain circumstances. Not that they would be allowed, but there is a process that could be followed to formally allow that. And that the property owners had been urged to do that, and had submitted an application earlier this year that was, I believe it was rejected and then appealed, and then the rejection was upheld on appeal. And that's still kind of hanging out there with the Department of Ag.
Stockpiling of materials, any idea what type of material?
Oh my gosh, I have to check my notes.
Yeah, that's okay.
It was about 2 weeks ago. Michelle and I had like a 90-minute call. I took pages of notes, but
Yeah.
I mean, we've looked at some aerial photographs and have some questions, but getting out there on site is going to be really important. So.
Yeah.
Be a lot of discussion, I'm sure, once we hear back.
Yeah, I think coming out of Thursday, I think, Wendy and Molly will really kind of, we'll be looking at them in terms of what process, and at whether you want to look at a joint meeting, or whether you want to look at concurrent review by the two bodies.
Or it might be that they withdraw.
It could be, yeah.
Based on
I would have one question. This is a request for a house for the owners to live in. They already have a house to live in. How many additional houses do they?
well, the existing house will go to their children who are running the farm, is what the application says.
I know, but at what point is it, how many houses do they do? How far down the road do you go with that?
Yeah, well, apparently this has been turned down once already, so.
Yeah, Department of Ag said they were very, very clear with me and Michelle that they would not consider a request for a certificate of approval until any existing issue of non-compliance was brought into compliance. So that's kind of, as far as Department of Ag is concerned, that's where they are, is trying to either bring things into compliance or show that they are in compliance before they would even entertain an application for a POA.
So bringing it to compliance, it's gotta be an agricultural use substantially.
Mhm.
Right.
I'll wait till the next meeting, we'll discuss it.
All right,
Community compact grant.
oh, just FYI, we filed that, you saw in the packet, we did also sign the agreement with ClearGov, but there's a provision in there, their so-called community compact clause, which basically, you know, we had expressed our intent to apply for that. In the event the grant is denied, we would have the option to terminate the service by providing notice of 15 days. So the benefit of that, Jenny and I had a follow-up call with them early last week. And the benefit of going forward is it allows us to begin the onboarding with the goal of getting this up and running timely for the FY25 budget process. So that was good. There's like, you know, there's a whole ramp up that's needed to get all our data uploaded, and we couldn't really start that until we signed an agreement. So we did put in the grant.
So they're willing to.
They're at risk. They're at risk, and I made that total, I said, so you're totally at risk, and they said, yeah. They feel, I guess, have a very strong track record with communities getting community compact grant, so they're willing to stick their necks out, and so that's what they've done. So we, as it turns out, that the first available date that works for both me and Jenny, because she's on vacation next week. So the first available date for our first training is not, I think it's like not next week, it's the week after. I want to say it's the week of October, whatever that is. I think it's the 17th. Yeah, we have kickoff on the 17th, in January, so that's 2 weeks from tomorrow. So it's not gonna happen, you know, things aren't gonna happen right away, and our amount of time toward that is limited, but if we want to have this up and running for the budget season, we need to kind of get moving on getting our data uploaded. And
That's great.
Yeah, so I think it's exciting.
I think, yeah, it's exciting.
So will there be a lot of administration with this grant?
No, the community compact has been a snap
Yeah.
to administer. We've had a couple of those, and it's really very easy. And the town planner report, I said for September, and then I realized it also said September a month ago, it's actually her October reports. And oh, the MS4 annual report, this is something that's been a real team effort. But, you know, this is, you gotta do one of these every year. It's
So
like-
who's the team that's actually filling out the report?
So we did engage MVPC through some LTA hours, so they helped, but you know, a lot of the things are, you know, so Christine quarterbacked it.
Okay.
Last year it would have been Wayne, but it was Christine Wallace who kind of quarterbacked it, and then it was circulated at a couple of our working group meetings, so you know, Sue and Michelle and Paul and you know, Butch and Caitlin Bradstreet all kind of chipped in their parts, and
Great.
so it's, you know, I personally hate the format. It's not.
It's really difficult to follow.
Yeah, like no one's gonna read it. There's actually a fair amount of content in there, but no one's gonna read it. It's just laid out so poorly.
Yeah.
And some of the boxes end up getting truncated when you export it in PDF. It's just very wonky, but that's the feds for you.
Yeah.
So every year around this time, we just make the board aware that the annual report was submitted, just like we'll do in, you know, October, November with the Green Communities annual report. You know, there's some of these that just every year, but we start working on this, a couple of months ahead of time.
Mhm.
Not like full time, but, we start chipping away at it.
Sure. Updates on other ongoing projects, initiatives?
Nothing comes to mind.
Actually, I'd like to, bring up, at the last meeting, we talked about the, community aggregation or municipal aggregation, and there was a letter that Elisa, or a series of communications that Elisa put together for the DPU. She then, put together a package that she sent out to, Angus, me, Rebecca, and Chip Wallace were also on there. So I think it makes sense for us to go ahead and send this to DPU. What Elise had suggested is that the town manager might be best to be the signatory. Angus, I don't know if you've had it, but I know you've got, about 1,000 other things on your plate, so.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking, I have, just last week, I think I got 15 emails from Elisa, and I didn't open, that's the one I didn't open.
Yeah, no, I know how that's
Just,
yeah. So, but, my thought is that, so this needs to be sent by October 6th, which is this Friday. But she's pretty much laid it all out. So I don't know if you have a few minutes, maybe we could sit down and talk about it, and
sure.
and there's no, other than kind of satisfying yourself that, that you're not, selling your house or something.
Yeah, no, I saw some of those, right, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah,
But if you got some time this
Yeah,
week, maybe we
definitely.
can talk about it, and,
sure. Yeah, I'd love to just get that signed and sent. Rebecca's out
Right.
tomorrow, Wednesday, and I'm at actually most of the day Thursday, I'm at school safety seminar down at Endicott, on like school shootings and things that I need to be more, I need to be there for some of those. Yeah, so. This week actually is really not, but we'll find a way, we'll get it done. And she did all the work, it just.
right, yeah, well, let me know if you wanna, we can get together if that'll help at all, I need to read it
I
all
think,
again
yeah, no,
myself,
I
and
think
just
it's,
make
it's
sure
all. I think it's all
I'm
clear.
fully comfortable with everything, but,
Yeah, I mean, my big thing is, I've got the FinCom booklet's gotta be done this week.
Yeah.
The capital program, I've got a big meeting tomorrow that I'd hope to spend a couple hours today, I will spend 2 minutes today, so, and then, we've got meeting Friday or Thursday, I'm out good part of the day at the school safety, and then we've got the sidewalk. I really have no time, and then I'm on Friday, so I really have like very, very little time. this
Why
week.
did she want to go out and the town manager instead of the select board?
That's a good question, maybe,
I can take a look at
I mean, it does all spoon fed, it's all, but it's
Yeah.
still, it's just even 5 minutes is like very hard to find
Yeah.
these days, so.
I mean, if there wasn't a specific reason she wanted it to, then I can sign her.
well, I'll forward this to you, and but of course, we can't talk, so, unfortunately,
Well, does it need revisions, or do you just need me to work with somebody to get a letterhead, and, or is it?
yeah, that'll probably. I've read everything quickly, I wanted to go through and make sure I understood exactly the order and,
Okay.
but I can forward this to you, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, we can't talk about it, so.
Well, why don't you read through it and make any corrections that you think need to be made in the
Yeah,
forward?
okay.
Yeah, if you copy Jim, he's got all the templates, he can put on a letterhead, just make it ready for signature.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Great. Any follow-up meeting assignments? What did you want to place?
I did just I won't get into the subject matter, but I did hear from town council in the last hour or so. It was something that's due again tomorrow, so I'll forward that to each of you, and if there's any comments, I'm gonna need those, like, from first half of tomorrow, maybe get that filed by the end of tomorrow, so.
So that didn't go out?
No, I just got the draft at 9:17, so.
I thought it was gonna go out.
Soon, I think.
Well,
I thought it was due Tuesday.
It is.
I talked to him Friday, he said he got the date one off, and we have one extra day. so,
Okay, awesome.
But it says in the email, he intends to serve it by close of business Tuesday, so we don't have a whole lot of time, so.
What culvert is it?
Homework, Kathy, will be.
There is, should I mention anything about the culvert grant or?
Sure. One thing Mark Way said is that grants will kill you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and that, I think that's a big part of our workload issue is,
yeah, well, we just jumped through.
yeah, we need it like a dollar
If
amount.
you take
for
a
it.
grant, you're now working, that is now a
Yeah.
floor boss.
Yeah.
That is now another boss that my office has taken on.
Yeah.
And when we're managing 25 to 30 grants a year, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
People don't see, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, you know, we've been actively looking at these two culverts on Coffin Street, there's others too, but, you know, sure enough, we get something forwarded to us from MVPC on Friday that looks like it's been in their inbox for a couple of weeks at that point, but we just got it Friday and it's culvert grant. And it's due this coming Friday. And so we turn ourselves inside out, trying to apply for a grant due in 3 days. It is something that we need, and if we don't get a grant, we will be paying for locally, but even just like, I mean, there is no time, so, you know, and as you know, I worked most of the weekend and it's just like, this place is really, we're I don't know, I have really mixed feelings, because I just,
Yeah, I don't think we should go for it.
I did get an email from Michelle at 6:59 PM. You know, with some suggestions she's making, but, you know. So,
And what was the grant amount? Was it 30,000?
I haven't even looked, I just looked at it in a really superficial way, just to see if we were on the list of eligible communities, and we are.
Mhm.
But it's, you know, to do something like that, you know, properly, you know.
Yeah,
Michelle's gotta be involved, Butch has to be involved, you know, if Rebecca wasn't out for a couple of days, like, who knows, but she is, like, I have, you know, there's the. Yeah,
And on grants, don't a lot of grants cycle back in?
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah, but the thing is, like, the Coffin Street ones, we're gonna wanna do those, like, in the next, you know.
3 days, yeah.
Yeah, right, so it's like, it's not unimportant, it's not urgent, it's just,
No,
you know.
but it's, yeah, I mean. Sometimes you can't pick up everything.
Right. But it was just one of these things, like, I was working on the packet Friday, and I got this, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, this thing's due, like.
So this fellow that you're gonna see is gonna be very helpful with stuff like this. This is actually a great example.
Yeah.
And I bet he's gonna be nice.
Say now.
Well, we did talk about this a while ago, that by taking on all these projects at once, you're overwhelming.
Yeah,
And you gotta, at a certain point, this might be a good one to pass on for right now.
yeah,
Because not only the grant, then it's gotta get administered once you know,
right,
do it.
right,
So you get
That's
some
right.
stuff off the plate, it's,
yeah. I
Just
just,
out
you
of
know,
curiosity, who's the grant from?
it's from, let's see,
I think it's the ecological, I can't remember the acronym.
yeah, DER, Mass Division of Ecological Restoration.
Yeah, so it would be a box culvert type grant or type culvert, you know, it would be a correctly. I'm not saying we gotta do it, it's tragic because what we'll end up doing is throwing in another piece of round pipe.
Or not.
Yeah.
Or not. Maybe, the fact that you don't go after this one that's happening right now today, doesn't mean that you don't have an opportunity to do the right thing in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just tragic if we install infrastructure, do we?
That's true,
Yeah.
but the grants, the grant, you know, you should check out whether.
Angus, I'm not suggesting I go for it, it's just tragic when stuff works out. you
Yeah,
know?
right.
I would not
Because-
say tragic. That's just like,
Well,
Well,
unfortunate would be a better word.
You know, part of what we're seeing right now is that, you know, a grant that, you know, in the old days, you know, 6, 7, 10 years ago, would have just been replaced.
yeah,
Now is needing to be engineered, go through Grantcom, go through natural heritage. So I do think that with following the rules, which we are doing now,
yeah,
that is gonna result in designs that are more reflective of the community's kind of policy objectives and not just like a utilitarian, like replace it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
so we'll end up doing the right thing, right?
Yeah,
We will.
What was the, item that you wanted to be on the agenda? I don't remember what it was. I don't know if it had been 3 hours.
Much earlier in the meeting.
Yeah. Chris, do you have anything for future agendas?
No.
Okay.
that's pretty bad,
I know, me too, but I feel less bad if you don't even remember.
yeah, it's been a lot.
All right, second.
No, don't promise, Jim, no.
That was like the schedule, like, I expect.
No, it wasn't.
All right, all in favor?
Right.
Great.